Someone on campus is shipping me with my arch rival, the school beauty. I looked disgusted and told everyone. Even if all the women in the world died, I would never like her. Ji Wanyu defiantly declared, I'd rather become a nun than marry Zhao Yichen. Then I woke up to find I had traveled 6 years into the future. Not only had I married Ji Wanyu, we also had an adorable 3-year-old daughter. Just arriving in this new timeline, I was still a bit dazed, trying to process the information in my mind. My good bro Kezan saw my expression and briefly summed up what I'd been doing these years. So you're telling me, right after graduation, I married Ji Wanyu, got her pregnant immediately, and after our daughter was born, I lost my mind and fell for someone else, gave up my beautiful wife, kid, and warm home, and became a simp for another woman. I was so shocked my jaw nearly dropped. Kezan nodded. That's right. Hold on. I need a moment. After a pause, I looked up and asked, that Li Wei, is she prettier than Ji Wanyu? Kezan looked awkwardly speechless, then shook his head. I asked again, is she richer than Ji Wanyu? Kezan replied, Ji Wanyu is now a nurse and a rising star in finance. Lu Wei can't compare. I asked again, then is it because Ji Wanyu doesn't like me? Kezan scratched his head. She gave birth to your child. What do you think? A beautiful, rich wife who loves me. Then what reason did I have to fall out of love? I looked at him, seeking answers, and asked, what do you think made me change? Kezan glanced at me and said, maybe you're just a scumbag. I nodded. I think so too. Kezan, I'm sorry. My tone couldn't hide the sadness. I thought losing love would be bad enough. I didn't expect to lose my best bro too. Kezan opened his mouth, but in the end, said nothing. I explained again. I really have no idea what I actually did. Kezan couldn't help but ask, are you really the 18-year-old Chun? Brother Chun? At first, he really suspected I was faking it. But now it didn't seem like I was acting. I nodded vigorously. Really, I opened my eyes and found myself here. I even thought I transmigrated into a novel, but the system didn't even assign me one. Kezan looked at me for a moment, then basically confirmed it, because the 24-year-old Chun only had calculation in his eyes. You really did some terrible things to me. But the 18-year-old you doesn't need to apologize for them. I looked at him expectantly. Then, will you talk to me again? Kezan awkwardly looked away. When you were 18, did I ever not talk to you? I stood up and sat beside him, throwing my arm around his shoulder. Kezan really is my best bro. You scared me to death. I thought we fell in love with the same girl and became enemies. Kezan's face darkened. At that moment, my stomach grumbled at the worst possible time. Kezan, I waited a long time for you today. All right. Kezan coughed to cover it up and said, to make it up to you, I'll treat you to a meal. I instantly sat up. If you're willing, treat me to that BBQ place near campus. Then 18-year-old Chun might forgive 24-year-old Kezan. Kezan rolled his eyes in disgust. Forget it if you won't forgive me. After that, he stood up. I clung to his shoulder and wouldn't let go. Hey. How can you treat our revolutionary friendship like this? Isn't our friendship unbreakable? Kezan looked annoyed, but the corners of his mouth lifted slightly so noisy. Were you always this loud at 18? I glanced at him and scoffed. Come on, you used to be even uglier than me. Back in high school, you talked more than I did. We wrote so many self-reflection essays. Kezan retorted defiantly in formal speech. In college, you wrote even more than me. I was dumbfounded. Really? You had to write self-reflections in college just for talking? Kezan chuckled. Of course. It wasn't until the afternoon that Kezan finally drove me back. From afar, I could already see the outline of the villa. I couldn't help but sigh. Bro, it's like a dream. Even now, I still can't believe that I've become a sugar baby. Kezan gave me a disgusted look. Look at how pathetic you are. Once the car stopped, I opened the door and got out. See you tomorrow, bro. Kezan looked a bit dazed, as if he really saw the 18-year-old Zhao Yichen. Through time and space, I waved my hand in front of him. Bro, what's wrong? Kezan snapped out of it. Get lost. Go inside. It's late. I chuckled. All right. I left while helping him close the car door, then headed toward the villa, turning back every few steps. Nightfall descended. I stopped and let out a long sigh. I opened a notebook and wrote a lot on one page. At the end, I wrote, 24-year-old Zhao Yichin, no matter if you lost your mind or got scared by someone, or you're doing something insane, you absolutely must not fall out with Kazan again. Kazan is the most important person, aside from mom and dad. Otherwise, you'll regret it. Then I placed the notebook prominently on the desk. Just in case I return to the past tomorrow, 24-year-old me will see it the moment he wakes up. I went downstairs in slippers. I have to admit, even the 24-year-old me would have to say, "This brat sure is lucky." A servant approached with a bowl. "Sir, your meal is ready." I suppressed the smile tugging at the corners of my mouth and replied with a calm Suddenly click asterisk. The door opened outside. I instinctively looked up and my eyes widened. It was Jiyu Wanyu. 6 years later, Jiyu Wanyu had shed her innocence. She had become even more beautiful. Her figure was also curvier and more defined. Truly worthy of being my goddess. Even after all these years, she was still stunning. She was holding a child in one arm. The baby seemed a bit uncomfortable while sleeping. It stirred slightly on her shoulder. Jiyu Wanyu's indifferent gaze softened a little. She gently patted the baby on the back. It wasn't until her graceful figure disappeared from sight that I finally closed my gaping mouth. That's my wife and child. I couldn't help but curse myself inwardly. What was 24-year-old me thinking to fall in love with someone else? Footsteps echoed again from the staircase. "Miss, dinner is ready." Jiyu Wanyu replied indifferently with a simple then walked straight to the dining table. The servant called me again. I responded with a yeah. It was my first day here, so I felt awkward joining the meal uninvited. The atmosphere at the table was a little tense. Jiyu Wanyu ate slowly and gracefully. She didn't even spare me a glance. I quietly lowered my head and ate my rice. Occasionally, I peeked at the woman across from me. All the way until the end. Aside from the sound of chopsticks hitting bowls, no other sound was heard. After dinner, Jiyu Wanyu got up from her chair and returned upstairs. The whole time, she didn't give me a single look. No one could accept it easily. A husband falling in love with another woman. Her attitude was probably normal. I tried to comfort myself with that thought. When Jiyu Wanyu came out of the baby's room, I quietly opened the door. A little girl sat on the carpet inside the baby's room. Her features resembled mine. She sat obediently on the floor, reading a picture book. A little pig plushie lay on the book. The plush was already washed to a faded white. One of her hands was in a cast. When she turned the page, she first tucked the pig into her arms, then turned to the next page. Finally, she placed the little pig back on the book and continued reading with it. I don't know why, but some images kept flashing through my mind. Too fast to catch. I waved at her. "Hi." The little girl looked up. Her calm eyes instantly turned to fear. She abruptly backed away. I panicked and said, "Nini, don't be scared. I won't come closer." At that moment, a cold voice came from behind me. "What are you doing?" I jumped in fright. Before I could say anything, Jiyu Wanyu pushed me aside and quickly walked inside. She knelt down in front of the terrified little girl. "Linger, don't be afraid. Mommy's here." Linger buried her face in her mom's arms and sobbed. After soothing her, Jiyu Wanyu stood up again. She gave me a cold look, her expression filled with irritation. "Zhao Yichin, this is my final warning to you." I was speechless, looking at Linger clinging to her leg. The little girl stared at me with resentment and kept hiding behind Jiyu Wanyu. I said with some disappointment, "It wasn't me." Jiyu Wanyu's voice was so cold, it could freeze. "Linger needs to sleep. You should leave." Feeling defeated, I returned to the bedroom. Lying on the big bed, I stared blankly at the ceiling. The 6 years of blank memory left me lost. I took out my phone and messaged Kazan. "Kazan, do you know what happened between me and Jiyu Wanyu and our child? What really happened?" The chat interface kept showing typing. After a while, I finally got a reply from Kazan. "I'm not too sure. We lost contact after Linger was born." I frowned at the message. "You don't know what happened between me and Linger either." Kazan replied, Before she turned 1, everything was fine. After that, it seemed like you didn't really like her. You weren't very nice to her." I asked, "What do you mean by not very nice?" Kazan replied, "After her full-month celebration, we still kept in touch. You would bring Linger to meet with me. Then one day, Jiyu Wanyu discovered some bruises on Linger. After that, I never saw her again." I stared at the chat box. Judging from Jiyu Wanyu's reaction, Those bruises on Linger were probably from me. Maybe even her injured arm had something to do with me. But why? I frowned and stared at the ceiling. Why did the 24-year-old me do something like that? My phone vibrated. I snapped back to reality. Kezan sent another message. Linger called her mom when she was 1. But after 1.5, she never spoke again. I ran into Ji Wanyu at the hospital once. I frowned deeply. What exactly had I done over the years? Linger's little face looked so much like Ji Wanyu's, adorable in every way. How could I have been so cruel? I suddenly sat up on the bed. No. I can't leave. I have to stay here. Children should never have to pay the price for adults' mistakes. Linger is too precious. Saying that, I got out of bed in my slippers. I went downstairs and made a cup of black coffee. Holding my nose, I drank it like it was some sort of punishment. It made me grimace and stick out my tongue in disgust. In a daze, I suddenly saw something by the stairs. A small figure was standing there, hiding behind a pillar. I set the cup down and quietly walked over. Linger saw me approaching and suddenly turned to run away. But she tripped, her left foot caught her right, and she fell hard onto the marble floor behind her. She heard my voice, but her eyes were still full of fear. She kept crawling backward. Don't move. I won't come closer. I won't come closer, okay? I quickly took several steps back, seeing that I wasn't approaching anymore. Linger pushed off the floor with one hand and stood up, then struggled to climb the stairs. I watched her tiny figure from behind, and suddenly felt a sharp ache in my heart. I leaned over the dining table, bracing myself, waiting for the stabbing pain to pass. After a while, the sound of footsteps upstairs faded away. Only then did I catch my breath. Holding my rising chest, I panted heavily. It looked like Linger had scraped her knee when she fell. I had to find the first aid kit. I found the kit right away. As I held it in my hand, I couldn't help but wonder, strange. It's only my first day in this house. How did I know exactly where the first aid kit was? I grabbed it and headed upstairs. At the spot where Linger had fallen earlier, there was a little pig plushie. I bent down, picked it up, and held it in my hand. Linger's room was mostly for show. She couldn't even reach the door handle. She was sitting on a small rug by the bed, curled up, nursing her scraped knee, pouting as she tried to soothe it herself. I softened my voice as much as I could. Linger, can I come in? Linger still looked very frightened. Her beautiful eyes were filled with terror. I held up the little pig plushie in my hand and gestured to her. I won't hurt you. You dropped your piggy. Linger stared at me for a long while, clenching her little fists. Only then did I push open the door. It's with me now. I won't hurt you. I took off my shoes and sat down beside Linger. I handed her the little pig plushie. Linger flinched in surprise, instinctively pulling away, and tightly shut her eyes. But when she didn't feel anything happen for a while, she cautiously opened her eyes. She looked at me warily. The bed was behind her, there was nowhere left to retreat, and she didn't dare reach for the toy in my hand. I placed the pig plushie down beside her. Let me put some medicine on it, okay? Her little body trembled slightly. Her clenched fist still wouldn't loosen. She didn't dare touch the plush pig beside her either. I took out a cotton swab dipped in iodine, but as soon as I got close, she dodged away. I said softly, "Don't be afraid. The medicine will help it heal faster." Only then did she stay still. She cautiously looked up at me. When the cotton touched her wound, she let out a hiss and shrank back a bit. I gently blew on the wound. Blow the pain away so it flies off. She quietly slid her hand underneath herself and grabbed hold of the little pig plushie. All done, I said, pulling my hand back. Linger, what were you doing downstairs just now? Were you looking for something? She paused, then pointed to the table nearby. I followed her little finger. On the table not far away, there was a pig-shaped cup and lots of tissues. I got up, there were still some water stains on the table. It looked like the cup had been knocked over, but Linger had already tried wiping it up with tissues. So now the table was covered in soaked paper towels. Were you thirsty? I turned back to the little one sitting on the floor. I'll go get you some water. Saying that, I turned and left the room. When I returned, Linger was still in the exact same position, staring at the little pig plushie in her hands. She looked dazed and expressionless, like a delicate doll without life. Something tugged at my heart unexpectedly. I walked over and knelt in front of her. Linger, here's your water. She was still a bit guarded, her fingers tightening around the plushie. I placed the cup on the floor. I'll leave it here. Drink it, and then go to sleep, okay? Saying that, I stood up. Good night, baby. She stared at my back, deep in thought. I kissed the door and left a small gap. After I left, Linger finally put the pig down. She picked up the water cup. Maybe she was too thirsty, and gulped down several big sips, but she accidentally choked. She choked, her little face turning red. She put the cup on the floor, covering her mouth. She coughed. Seeing this, I could no longer suppress my emotions. I rushed in, then held her tightly in my arms, gently patting her back. Linger looked up in a daze. When she choked, my brain hadn't reacted yet, but my body acted first. When I came to my senses, I was already holding Linger, so small, nestled in my arms. Even after choking, she didn't cry or fuss. The water cup was knocked over. She quietly cleaned it up herself. My well-behaved daughter made my eyes sting. Are you feeling better, Linger? My tears slid down my cheeks onto Linger's face. She reached up and touched it. Looking at the wetness on her hand, she lifted her little face to look at me. She didn't dare come closer. She could only stare at me intently. Seeing that she had calmed down, I let go of her. I'm sorry, Linger. Next time, I'll get you a straw, okay? As soon as she left my arms, she lowered her head and shrank back, tightly clutching the little pig plushie beside her. I knew Linger didn't want to be close to me right now. But after letting go, I felt empty inside. I stood up, Linger. I'm heading out. Go to bed early. Good night. I turned around only when I reached the door. Seeing me turn around, she hurriedly lowered her head. How about I turn off the light for you? With a click, the main light went out. The bunny lamp on the princess' bed glowed softly. The room wasn't too dark. Linger waited until there was no more sound at the door. Before getting up from the floor, she placed the little pig plushie on the bed. Then she climbed up herself. The bed wasn't too high, but for Linger, who wasn't yet 3 years old, it was still a bit difficult to climb up. She obediently pulled up the blanket, placed the little pig plushie in her hand, on the small pillow next to her, then closed her eyes. I watched the whole thing. Linger was wary of me, a bit afraid of my approach. So I didn't dare go in rashly. I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes and got ready to return to my room. Just as I turned around unexpectedly, my gaze happened to meet Ji Wanyi's from not far away. She just looked at me coldly, her calm eyes without a trace of emotion. That beautiful face was full of coldness. I stared at her in a dazed Ji Wanyu. But she just walked past me directly and opened the door behind her. I pressed my lips together, not daring to confess everything to her rashly. I'm not sure if our marriage is one of mutual love, and I'm not sure whether, if I tell her, I'll end up being sent to a mental hospital. After all, even Kezan thinks I've gone crazy. This whole thing is just too unbelievable. Late at night, I yawned lazily, feeling drowsy. That cup of coffee didn't seem to have any effect. Just a little nap, just a nap, drifted off again in my room. I suddenly sat up in bed, instinctively looked around. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. Luckily, I was still here. I lifted the blanket and went downstairs. Linger was sitting on the chair, eating breakfast obediently. The glass of milk was a bit big. She couldn't hold it with one little hand. When she saw me, a servant came up immediately. Sir, you're awake. I nodded and sat at the dining table, picked up Linger's milk cup and handed it to her. Linger was still a little afraid when she saw me. She shrank back slightly. I softened my voice. Take small sips. Don't choke. Linger then took my hand and finished a cup of milk in small sips. At that moment, Ji Wanyu came downstairs after changing clothes. Linger, have you finished eating? We're going to the company now. When speaking to Linger, her tone had a bit of warmth. My eyes shifted slightly as I casually continued eating breakfast. It's the weekend today. Linger doesn't need to go to kindergarten. She stay home with Ji Wanyu, not letting me near. Linger guards against me like on the plague. Ji Wanyu let out a cold laugh. Stay home for what? Linger's hand is only fractured. Are you disappointed? I froze a bit, mechanically turning my head, looking at Linger's hand fixed in a plaster cast. Linger obediently wiped her mouth, then reached out to Ji Wanyu. Ji Wanyu picked her up and grabbed Linger's little backpack from the sofa. I didn't move until the sound of the door closing echoed. In a milk tea shop by the street, music filled the little store. Dark clouds hung low, a sign that a storm was coming. I'd lost count of how many times I sighed. Kezan pursed his lips and said, At first, everyone thought you were Ji's daughter, and were crazily happy about it. But later on, you became more and more out of line. That's when Ji Wan-yu had no choice but to accept the truth that you had changed. Ever since Linger was born, you've been like a woman possessed. You abused Linger and caused constant chaos at home. I asked Kezin, were Ji Wan-yu and I ever really in love? Kezin paused a moment. At least your marriage wasn't mixed with any poison or prearranged terms. He didn't answer directly, but I understood. Everything started to fall apart after my breakdown. If I come clean with Ji Wan-yu, do you think she'd think I'm mentally ill? Kezin gave me a look that said, it's your call. So much has happened. I'm not even sure about Ji Wan-yu anymore. How does she really feel about you? If you recklessly confess everything, plus everything that happened before, there's a chance Ji Wan-yu might lock you up in a mental hospital. I anxiously scratch my head. What should I do? Every time I see Linger, I feel a tug deep in my heart. There are always fleeting fragments in my mind. Too fast for me to grasp. Ji Wan-yu won't let me get close to Linger. Kezin looked at me quietly for a while. Given what you did before, it's actually understandable. I held my face, deeply troubled, even though I just turned 18. When I saw Linger, it didn't feel strange at all. It instinctively felt like she was my daughter. Could it really be that Shida and I is Qingfeng? After parting with Kezin, I followed my memories and found the place I lived before I turned 18. I rang the doorbell. I tried to contain my excitement when the door opened and Baihu saw me. A flash of panic crossed her eyes. Yichen, why are you back? I rushed up and gave her a big bear hug. Mom, you haven't changed a bit in 6 years. Baihui was stunned by my pounce. Where's Dad? I quickly asked with excitement. As I spoke, I was about to go inside, but my mom blocked me. I was shocked by her reaction. She looked at me with a complicated expression. Your dad and I won't agree to you being with Lu Yue. I told you clearly last year, we're not together anymore. I waved my hand. A tear squeezed from my eye. Holding her hand, I said, Mom, I've figured it out. I want to live a good life with Ji Wan-yu from now on. Seeing such a big change in my attitude, she couldn't believe it right away. Seeing her disbelief, I quickly held up 3 fingers. I promise I won't tread on any more dangerous paths. Can you just have Dad cut my allowance instead? I opened my mouth, not knowing what to say. What's wrong, Mom? Are you going to shut your precious son out? I blinked at her pitifully. The two of us stood at the door for a while. She finally stepped aside and let me in. Before I could even take a good look at the house, something small by the sofa caught my attention. Linger. I looked in surprise at the little figure stacking blocks on a small stool. A tiny lump of cuteness. Linger looked up at me. Her sapphire-like eyes changed from calm to frightened. Before I could get closer, Baihu blocked my way in front of her. Wan-yu is busy with work, so she left Linger here for now. We've been treating Linger really well. She's been very well behaved. Don't worry, I pretty much know what my 24-year-old self was like. Not exactly the best, but to have my own mom be this guarded, I was honestly a bit surprised. Couldn't help but curse myself a few times in my head. Click. The door to the study opened with a sound. A deep, strong voice came from inside. Linger. Grandpa's done with work. Dad. I rushed at him again, but got bounced back by his soft belly. I pinched my dad's belly. Old Zhao. What's going on with you? Why such a big belly now? Zhaozhen was caught off guard by my pounce. After seeing who it was, he frowned. Why are you back? Dad, I'm your son. I really couldn't adjust. Just a few days ago, he was secretly slipping me pocket money. Why the attitude changed today? Zhaozhen glanced at Baihui, who just shook his head at me. All right. Let me go get a drink of water. Zhaozhen pushed me aside. I pouted and leaned over to Linger. Linger clenched her little hands tightly. Her body began to tremble slightly. Before I could speak, Liwi stepped between us, blocking the way. Wan-yu is on a business trip. Since there's no one to watch Linger, she was sent here. It's Linger's first time here, you know. We can't count on the Jiyu family. Wan-yu usually takes her on business trips. Today your dad happened to run into them and brought her here. I looked at her seriously and said, Mom, this is my home. Linger is my daughter. So there's nothing wrong with her coming home. She was stunned for a moment. I looked at Mom and explained carefully. and seeing Linger with her head down like she had done something wrong made my nose sting. I gently hugged her. Mom, what if I told you? I had a really long nightmare. In the dream, I kept bullying Linger, and I wasn't good to you or Dad either. But after waking up, I couldn't remember a thing, and I just ended up here. She paused, half in a daze, then patted my back. Yichin. Dad, and I didn't mean to block you out. It's just that Lu Yue. She really isn't a good person. She's such a promiscuous woman. How could you? Sigh. I know, Mom. I won't look for her again. I patted her back, but I do kind of want to see what kind of person Lu Yue is. To make me so obsessed. Mom let go of me, then hesitated and asked, tell me, what are you really thinking now? I pursed my lips and said, a bit offhandedly, what else can I do? Time to chase through the ashes. Win back my wife, my kid, and a warm bed. What kind of mess is this? I just confessed at 18. Didn't even get a kiss before being sent here. At 24, I'm chasing my wife again. The only difference is it's still the same person. Liwi finally relaxed and tapped my forehead. Go play nicely with Linger. I'll go cook a couple of dishes. Zhaozhen had finished washing his hands and was at the door. What are you up to this time? By Hua's side, forget it. It's rare for him to come home. Don't argue with him. Zhaozhen snorted, didn't we agree before? If he kept chasing after that Lu Yue, he's no longer my son. He hasn't seen us in over a year. And now he suddenly shows up like this, what's the deal? Bai Hua tied the apron behind his back. How many times have you secretly gone to see him this year? He's back now. Just get along. Don't argue with him. It's Linger's first time here too. If you argue. Didn't Yichin always love your braised pork ribs? Who wants to cook for him? Zhaozhen stood upright, his hands going behind his back to tie the string. Bai Hua didn't expose him. Her gaze fell on the two by the sofa. Contact that Dr. Chu again in a few days. I'm worried. Zhaozhen frowned. He nodded. I'll ask in a few days. Meanwhile, I squatted in front of Linger. Linger, are you building blocks with the little pig? Can I play with you? Linger hesitated for a moment, gripping her little pig plush tightly. Then she handed me a small block. Seeing that she wasn't resisting me so much, I felt truly happy. After taking the block from her hand, I looked to see where it should go. I patted her little head. Thank you, sweetheart. After that, I spent the whole afternoon building blocks with Linger. For once, I actually felt calm. Even I didn't notice when I looked at Linger. My expression softened without me realizing, until the smell from the kitchen started wafting out, and my stomach started rumbling with hunger. Come to think of it, I hadn't had Dad's braised pork ribs in a long time. I was already in my second year of college at 18. I only came home during long breaks. Work in the rural area kept me busy. I rarely had time to cook. We hired a housekeeper at home, only on special occasions. Would Zhaozhen personally cook? I finished building the block in my hand. Linger, I'm going to sneak you something tasty. Saying that, I got up and walked toward the kitchen. Linger stared intently at my back. I entered the kitchen, and sure enough, saw fresh braised pork ribs just coming out. Bai Hua glanced at me. Hungry? I pouted a little. Dad, after all these years, your cooking is still as amazing as ever. Go away, it's hot, Zhaozhen grumbled. He squirmed in disgust. I turned and hugged Mom again. Mom, I'm hungry. Bai Hua poked me in the forehead. Knowing you, as always. Go get it yourself. Alright. I let go. I washed my hands, picked up a braised pork rib and stuffed it into my mouth. I scalded my mouth with the freshly cooked rib. Everyone around chuckled lightly. Careful, it's hot. Silly child. I stirred it around in my mouth, then picked up another rib and left the kitchen. Zhaozhen watched my back, his gaze deep and puzzled. Why does it feel like my son has changed? He shook his head after saying that, then turned to wash the pot. It's been a long time since we've had a scene like this. Linger. I tore off some meat, blew it cool, and fed it to her. She opened her mouth and ate it. Is it good? She nodded. Even after playing all afternoon, Linger was still a little distant, but it wasn't her first time seeing me like this. When I was with Linger, I naturally slipped into the role of a father. Dinner's almost ready. I tore off another piece of meat and fed it to her. Hungry? I'm hungry too. This time Linger didn't open her mouth. She gently pushed my hand. I looked at her. You want me to eat it? She nodded obediently. Seeing that, I couldn't help but feel distressed. You don't need to eat it. I just secretly had a piece myself. Hearing that, Linger still insisted on pushing my hand back. She was like a little angel. I rolled my eyes slightly, then split the remaining meat in half. Half I fed to Linger, and I ate the other half. Linger, go to the kitchen and find Grandma and Grandpa. Linger tilted her head and looked at me. I wiped my hands with a wet tissue on the table. Go see what dishes Grandma and Grandpa are making. Linger stood up from the floor, holding a cup from the coffee table, and went to the kitchen. Oh my, Linger, why are you here? Bai Hui's voice came from the kitchen. Zhaozhen is truly thoughtful. Linger came to bring Grandpa some water. Before long, Bai Hui, afraid the kitchen fumes would bother the child, put some ribs in a small bowl. Linger, we'll eat soon. Go play with Dad for a while, okay? She nodded obediently, clamped the little pig plushie under her chin, and tightly held the little bowl in one hand. I got the ribs as I hoped, sat on the sofa and fed her while eating myself. Dinner was quite plentiful. It's rare for Zhaozhen to cook, even though his attitude towards me was a bit cold. Most of the dishes were things I liked. According to Kazan, I had been clamoring for a divorce a year ago. Because of that, I had serious arguments with my parents, and hadn't seen Linger for a long time. Every time I saw my parents with Linger, I would go crazy. I even pushed Linger to the edge of the road in front of everyone. It scared them so much they didn't dare look for Linger again. Linger was picked up at noon. Zhaozhen happened to run into Jiu Wanyu. When she found out he was taking Linger on a business trip, she felt sorry for how much he had to juggle. Although Linger is easy to care for, she still takes attention, so Zhaozhen brought her over. Linger probably has no reservations about her grandparents, but she didn't want Mom to be tired, so she immediately took Zhaozhen's hand. When Jiu Wanyu's figure disappeared at the security checkpoint, Linger's expression made Zhaozhen feel heartbroken. He picked her up. Linger just quietly wrapped her arms around Zhaozhen's neck. Not making a fuss, she kept looking in the direction where Wanyu had disappeared. There were no chopsticks for Linger at home. We'll buy a pair tomorrow. While helping Linger down, Bai Hui said. Linger still had to obediently eat with a spoon. Bai Hui placed a plump shrimp into Linger's bowl. Next time you come, Linger, Grandma will stew delicious pig's feet for you, okay? Linger nodded. When I heard pig's feet, my eyes lit up. Mom, I want the braised kind. I haven't had it in a long time. Bai Hui snorted. Who told you not to come back? It wasn't that I didn't want to. I licked my lips. Suddenly I remembered. I'm not eating right now. Under the table, Zhaozhen tugged at Bai Hui, but he didn't say much. Ever since I entered this door, Zhaozhen and Bai Hui had been somewhat distant, at least compared to before I crossed over. The contrast was stark. Even though I knew it was my 24-year-old self who messed things up, I still felt strange inside. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I was just about to stand when Bai Hui stopped me. It's for you. I'll get the door. Bai Hui was surprised to see who it was. Wanyu? Come in, Mom. I'm here to pick up Linger. Jiu Wanyu looked exhausted. She must have just finished work over there, then rushed back without rest. Linger is eating. You probably haven't eaten yet either. We just started. Come on in. Bai Hui stepped aside to let her in. Jiu Wanyu had just entered the house. When she instinctively looked toward the dining room, I was arguing with Zhaozhen. Even though Zhaozhen didn't want to pay me much attention, his expression wasn't as tense as before. I occasionally helped Linger with more food. Linger is such an easy child. She eats whatever she's given. Her little mouth was all greasy from eating. The atmosphere was just right, but she seemed like an outsider, completely out of place with us. As if sensing something, I glanced toward the entrance Jiu Wanyu. She exuded charm from head to toe. In those indifferent eyes, the emotion that flickered when she looked at me was complex, and I couldn't quite read it. Bai Hui added a new set of utensils. I served her a bowl of hot soup. Warm your stomach first before eating. Everyone at the table froze for a moment. Jiu Wanyu was the first to respond. Thank you. Linger pushed her own cup toward Mom. Jiu Wanyu patted her head. After dinner, Zhaozhen and Bai Hui walked us to the car. Bai Hui placed Linger in the child's seat. Wanyu, just drop Linger off next time you're on a business trip. You'll have more peace of mind when you're out. Be careful on the road. Ji Wanyu nodded. Okay, you and Dad go back and rest. Zhao Zhen's mom waved her hand as she spoke, but her gaze landed on me as I helped Linger with her seatbelt, watching the car disappear into the night. Bai Hu sighed with concern. Tell me honestly, what is she really up to this time? Zhao Zhen shook his head. She doesn't seem to be faking it. Normally she has to cause a scene before she's satisfied. Wanyu is a good kid, but Yichen, seriously, why did she suddenly come and then not say a word? Her brow was slightly furrowed. I still don't feel at ease. Contact Dr. Chu tomorrow. Zhao Zhen nodded. Back at the villa, Ji Wanyu got out of the car and carried Linger out from the child's seat. She was just about to carry her home, but Linger began to struggle in her arms. What's wrong? Ji Wanyu set her down and squatted to look at her. Linger shook her head and reached out to hold her hand. Only then did Ji Wanyu stand up and walk forward with her. They had only taken a few steps when Linger suddenly stopped. She turned her head to look at the person following behind. I quickened my pace. Linger had one arm in a cast, so she could only hold one hand. The three of us started walking. Only then did Linger move forward. The road outside the villa stretched all three of our shadows long. After coming back, Linger was taken for a bath by the nanny. Not even 3 years old yet, she could already sleep obediently by herself. I carried the medicine box and opened the baby room door. Linger lay facing away from the window. I lifted the blanket to check her knee. The spot where she fell last night had turned purple with bruising. The scraped skin had already scabbed over. I applied some ointment and tiptoed out of the bedroom. As I gently closed the door, the little one on the bed stirred. She sat up from the bed, lifted the blanket, and stared blankly at her knee. Then she quickly glanced toward the door and obediently snuggled back under the covers, grabbing the little pig plushie next to her. As I went downstairs to put away the medicine box, I saw the study door on the second floor open. My heart tightened. To be honest, after just confessing to her, I woke up as her husband. That's just bizarre. Even back then, when I chased her, it was all planned coincidences and small acts of care. Asking after her well-being. At that time, Ji Wanyu was cold, but she didn't exactly hate me. When I came over yesterday, the way she looked at me felt like we had been married too long. Time had worn away the passion of love between us, leaving only exhaustion and compromise with life. As soon as Ji Wanyu opened the door, she saw me hesitating at the top of the stairs. In her eyes, my behavior had been very strange since yesterday. Whether it was toward Linger or the bowl of hot soup I gave her tonight, she gave a self-deprecating tug at the corner of her lips. A bowl of soup almost broke down her psychological defenses. She seemed to furrow her brows. Why are you crying? I froze for a moment. I raised my hand and touched my cheek. It felt wet to the touch. I hadn't even realized when I started to cry. Ji Wanyu looked at me with cold, distant eyes, with emotions even she couldn't understand. Even though she had chased after me for years, she had never looked at me like that. That cold gaze had never fallen on me before. Seeing that I didn't speak, she pressed her lips together and sneered. I told you. No matter what tricks you play, no matter what you do, this marriage you can forget about ending it. As she said that, she turned slightly to the side, but I brushed past her and went downstairs. I called out to her, Ji Wanyu, I won't divorce you, and I'll treat Linger well. She paused for a moment, then walked straight downstairs. I pouted. Doesn't want a divorce, but still pretends to be cool. The next morning, when I woke up, Linger and Ji Wanyu were already eating breakfast. I yawned and sat down on the dining chair. Good morning. What greeted me was the usual silence. Linger had just peeled the last piece of eggshell. Her little hands couldn't hold it well. She placed the egg on the plate in front of me. I was slightly stunned. Thank you, Linger. After quietly finishing breakfast, Linger returned to her little bedroom. She sat on the carpet and read a book. Ji Wanyu, after eating, went back to her study. In novels, the CEOs go to work whenever they feel like it. But when it comes to Ji Wanyu, she's living that 996 grind. I muttered to myself in my heart. I brought some fruit and knocked twice on Linger's bedroom door. When I opened it, Linger placed the fairy tale book on her lap. That little pig was, as always, lying in the middle of the book. I sat beside Linger and speared a piece to feed her. Linger had been reading all morning. Let me take you for a walk in the back, okay? Linger is no longer as afraid of me as before, but she still looks a little tense when she sees me. She wants to get close but is still scared. I patiently asked, okay? Linger took a bite of the blueberry and gave a small nod. She put away the book on her lap and placed it on the little shelf, then held my wrist and went downstairs. On an early summer morning, sunlight was already spilling over the backyard garden. The small unknown trees in the yard swayed in the breeze. Linger, do you know what flower that is? Linger sweetly shook her head. She looked up at me. This is jasmine, baby. I bent down and picked a small blossom for her. Smell it, isn't it fragrant? Linger was holding her little pig plushie. I reached out my hand to her. Can I hold this for you? I'll give you the flower. Linger hesitated for a moment, clutching the plushie, then handed it to me. I gave her the little flower. Linger took the flower and held it under her nose to smell it. Is it fragrant? I held onto her wrist. Linger let me hold her. There was a white swing in the yard, surrounded by blooming vines. Climbing up the white pillars, I picked Linger up onto it and placed her little pig plushie beside her. Then walked behind and gently pushed. Linger smiled with her eyes. The swinging seat moved with the wind. Linger's soft hair was blown back by the breeze, revealing her delicate little features. I twisted some willow branches into a flower crown and placed it on Linger's head. What a beautiful baby. I cupped her little face. Linger's big blue eyes were like sapphires. Her lashes were thick and long. She really looked like a fairy tale princess. Just as I was about to get up to push the swing again, Linger grabbed my hand. I looked down at her. Linger reached out and patted the seat next to her. You want me to sit with you? Linger nodded. She placed the little flower on her lap, picked up the pig plushie next to her, and made room for me. I sat down next to her, held her in my arms. Ready? Here we go. With that, I pushed off with my toes. The swing soared forward. Suddenly, Linger dove into my arms. She froze for a moment, but once she felt the swing move strongly, she smiled. Upstairs, in front of the French windows, Jiu Wanyu stood by the glass. Her gaze landed on the white swing in the courtyard. Deep within her eyes surged an unreadable emotion. Soon, it was lunchtime. Linger sat obediently in her child's chair, eating the food I had let cool. Seeing the well-behaved little one, Kezhen's heart softened. I haven't seen Linger in a long time either. I poured her a small glass of juice, then asked, Linger, do you know who this is? She slurped the noodles into her mouth, then looked up at them intently. Godfather. That's my godfather. Kezhen was momentarily stunned, then let out a soft laugh. Linger looked over at him and smiled with her eyes. Linger is such a good girl. Kezhen couldn't help but pinch her chubby little cheeks. I let out a small snort. Jiu Wanyu didn't even want me to bring Linger out. You two almost didn't get to meet. Kezhen paused. Then how did he agree? The driver came with us. I tilted my head slightly toward the driver. I don't even know what I did to make him so guarded against me. Upon hearing that, Kezhen frowned. I sighed. These days, whether it's my most trusted brothers, my beloved parents, or even people like Bu Wanyu and them, their unanimous attitude was enough to show that the 24-year-old me was really terrible. Kezhen, I saw your comic the other day. It's being adapted into a show, right? Kezhen nodded. They're already preparing for filming. What about the male lead? Has the male lead been confirmed? Kezhen lowered his eyes to hide his emotions. If it's decided, can I visit your set? I looked at him expectantly. Kezhen smiled and replied, sure, but we're not exactly a big-budget production. No trending idols either. That's fine. I'll be your assistant. As I said that, I leaned in toward Kezhen. A free Kezhen fan assistant. Sounds good, right? So, do you have any plans now? I'm not sure either. Just taking things one step at a time. Anyway, since I'm here, I definitely won't let things get worse. As I said that, I glanced at Linger, who was eating quietly. In the past, I had to chase my nieces around the house just to get them to eat, or they'd grab rice and throw it everywhere. Mealtime felt like a battlefield. By comparison, Linger is really well behaved. She eats quietly, doesn't fuss, and is easy to care for. Whatever she sees along the way, she just looks at it curiously with wide eyes. Totally different from those little troublemakers. While I feel comforted, I also feel a bit sorry for her. Are you full? I asked, and Linger nodded. I wiped her mouth for her, and then used a wet wipe to clean her hands. Took off her bib, and picked her up. This whole process left Kezin slightly surprised. Didn't expect you to be so good with kids. I froze a little. I don't know why either. Some things just seem to come naturally. Like I've done them many times before. Even though there's no memory in my mind of ever living in that villa, every path feels like I've walked it 100 times. Even the placement of every object. I can pinpoint the exact locations. Linger was placed on the sofa, holding her pig plushie. I turned on a cartoon and went to sort the lunchboxes. She watched attentively. Have I taken care of Linger before? Kezin shook his head. I'm not sure. We haven't kept in touch for a while. I asked Kezin again. Do you think I really traveled from 18 to 24 years old? Hearing that, Kezin frowned. The whole thing just sounds ridiculous. A plot straight out of a novel or a drama. Yet it's happening in real life. I asked cautiously. So you don't believe it either? Kezin replied seriously. I believe you. I thought it was a prank at first. But your personality shifted. It was just drastic. I sighed helplessly. But I really am the 18-year-old me. You suddenly changed back then. We all thought you'd gone crazy from love. Ji-won followed you almost all the time. But you seemed to only get worse. I quickly asked. And then what happened? Kezin continued. Then you kept showing us with your actions that you didn't love Ji-won and didn't like Linger either. Even the doctors said there was nothing wrong with you. I let out a breath. The more he said, the more curious I got. Yi-chun, I don't even know what to say about you. These past few years, you've really seemed like you were possessed. Remember those novels we used to read? It's like someone else took over your body, but it's just too absurd. I fell silent. Maybe only the 24-year-old me knows the answer to this question. A waiter pushed the door open. On the tray was a pudding shaped like a rabbit. Hello, here's your dessert. Thank you. I fed the bunny pudding to Linger. No matter the reason. At least right now, it's me. Linger finished one pudding, licked her lips, and looked at me. I patted her little head. No more, okay? Linger has been super good today. This is your reward. If you eat too much, your tummy will hurt, okay? Linger nodded and turned back around. I placed the items on the dining table. Kezin. What's Linger's full name? Zhao Wanling. Linger, who was watching TV attentively, heard her name. She peeked her head out and looked toward Kezin. Kezin was charmed by the cuteness. He pinched Linger's chubby little cheek. Zhao Wanling. A flash of memory hit my mind. A scene flashed by. So fast I couldn't catch it. Suddenly a sharp pain shot through my head. Kezin looked at me in panic. What's wrong? Yi-chun. I calmed down and waved it off. It's nothing. I've had these stabs of pain in my temples before, like being pricked by a needle. But lately, they've been happening more often. After lunch, we took Linger to the nearby mall to play. We found a small children's play area upstairs. Linger loves Legos. Even here. She just sat quietly in a corner building bricks. Other kids ran around everywhere, but she kept her distance, because one of her arms was in a cast. Most of the other kids didn't approach her. Kezin and I ordered coffee, and leaned on the railing to chat. Kezin, what's your plan with that young family person? Kezin said calmly, it's a business marriage. We don't interfere in each other's lives. I pursed my lips. Kezin has always had a laid-back personality. Lately, I've been following Jiangjia's news. She seems a little ambiguous with that male celebrity. There's no solid news. But where there's smoke, there's fire, so I really don't like her much. Kezin smiled at me. Let's not talk about me. I'm doing just fine. Before we could continue chatting, Kezhin's phone rang. After answering it, his expression changed slightly. I got it. When he hung up, I finally spoke. It's fine if you're busy. Go ahead and leave. It's getting late anyway. I'll stay and play with Ling Ling a bit. Later, Bu Wanyu will come pick us up to go to the old house. Only then did Kezin glance at me. I don't care at all about the 013 people from the crew. He waved his hand. Go on. It's all okay on my end. Just don't mess up my comic adaptation. Let's meet again next time. Kezin nodded. He left, turning back with every step. Linger came over from the corner. I bent down. What's wrong? Linger pointed at the Lego in the corner. Linger is so clever. This area is actually the toddler zone, so the Lego here is much simpler than the ones Linger builds at home. Way too easy. Want to go down the slide, baby? Linger's delicate eyebrows didn't move. I'll catch you at the bottom, okay? Linger thought for a moment, then nodded. The slide looked like a maze. Linger followed behind a group of kids, waiting in line to slide down. When it was Linger's turn, she held the stuffed pig under her chin and sat down carefully. A slightly older girl behind her squatted down and asked, "Are you ready?" Little sister Linger nodded. "Then I'll push you," she said, grabbing Linger's shoulders and giving a gentle push forward. Linger slid down. I caught her steadily in my arms. Looking down, I saw a smile on Linger's face. Her squinting eyes looked like little crescent moons. I carried her up. Then I squatted to catch the next girl. The little girl waved, "No need. I'm already a big kid." "Thank you." I squatted in front of the two kids. "No problem." The girl pointed at Linger's hand. "What's wrong with your sister's hand?" She hurt her hand. The little girl glanced at Linger. "Does it hurt?" Linger shook her head. She had the braids when we left the house, but after a full day of play, they were a little loose and droopy. Her eyes were shining bright. "You're really brave." The little girl took out a stamp from her pocket. "This one is Wild Boar Peppa. This one is a little rabbit. Which one do you like?" Linger didn't like the pink hairdryer one. She pointed at the little rabbit she liked. The girl opened the stamp. "Can I put it on her hand?" she asked. I looked at Linger and asked, "Is that okay?" Linger nodded. She reached out with the hand in a cast. The little girl opened the bag and pressed it on. A vivid pink little rabbit was stamped on Linger's hand. "So pretty." I patted her head. "Thank you." "You're welcome." The girl put the stamp away. "This is a reward for warriors," my mom said. I asked, "Are you a little warrior?" The girl's eyes were full of admiration. "My mom is. She's a soldier." "That's amazing, Monuo." A girl's voice called from over there. "Mom," Monuo packed up her stamp. "I'm heading off. Goodbye, uncle." "Goodbye, little sister." I watched her leave. In the afternoon, a luxury car stopped in front of the mall. Ji Wanyu slightly moved. She opened the car door. I placed Linger in the child seat and fastened her seatbelt. We didn't speak the whole way. I met Ji Wanyu in 8th grade. She had just transferred schools back then. She had good grades and looked good. Cold and expressionless were her labels, but I knew that cold people can have warm hearts. I had heard a bit about her family situation. Her parents divorced and each remarried. Ji Wanyu was redundant in both homes. After a younger sister was born, Ji Wanyu rarely returned to that home. The car came to a steady stop. Blood splattered, and the person behind looked dazed. The cold girl pulled me back from my drifting thoughts. Only then did I get out of the car. I held Linger's hand and knocked on the door. Moments later, the door opened. A servant invited us in. Ji Wanyu's father was sitting on the sofa watching the news. Ji Minkian was a refined middle-aged man. His face resembled Ji Wanyu's by about 60%. When he saw me, his eyes narrowed slightly. Then he put down his tablet and stood up. But when I got married, Ji Minkian had a lot of harsh words. He valued status and family background. Coming from a good family but having no great achievements, I wasn't the son-in-law he wanted. But Ji Wanyu had always disregarded his opinion, completely indifferent to it. I greeted him. He didn't respond, just calmly glanced at the silent Linger. Then sat down. Footsteps came from upstairs. It was Ji Wanyu's stepmother, Lan Yuin. She was 12 years younger than Ji Minkian. I heard she used to be his secretary. A boy was following beside Lan Yuin. I had seen him before. "Wanyu's here." Lan Yuin's gaze swept over. When she saw me, her reaction was even bigger than Ji Minkian's. "Yichin," I smiled politely. I didn't know what to call her. A trace of displeasure flashed in Ji Minkian's eyes. "Wanyu, didn't you say you were on a business trip? When did you get back?" The boy sat naturally beside Ji Wanyu. Ji Wanyu seemed a little impatient. She leaned back slightly. Lan Yuin gave him a brief glance. Hao Hao Chin Hao pouted slightly. "Brother Yichin, long time no see." I forced a smile. "Yeah, it's been a while." Chin Hao looked at me with deep hostility. Suddenly, I remembered. One afternoon in sophomore year, on my way back to school, I saw Chin Hao pestering Ji Wanyu. The girl was actually extremely impatient. She also smiled sweetly and leaned in. The atmosphere was strange. They said it was just an arranged union between young heirs and heiresses, a method to develop feelings. I thought it was ridiculous, until Ji Won-yu reached out her hand to ask for what he was holding. I don't know what she said, but Shinhao stuffed the item into her hand and left. The girl stood there holding the item. I couldn't see her expression. From that day on, I rarely approached him again. It wasn't until college that we interacted again. In sophomore year, I confirmed that Ji Won-yu didn't have a boyfriend. That's when I finally had the courage to confess. Shinhao's voice pulled me back from my thoughts. Sister Won-yu, you still haven't told me when you came back. Ji Won-yu impatiently replied, I'm going to the bathroom. Before I could sigh about her demeanor, a cold glint shot at me from Shinhao's eyes. Linger never drew much attention wherever she was. The adults were talking. She lowered her head and touched her little pig toy. The room was fairly quiet, only the back-and-forth voices of Ji Minkian and Ji Won-yu. A servant broke the silence. Sir, madam, dinner is ready. Ji Minkian asked, Where's Xiaoran? Lan Yuyin replied, Hasn't she come back yet? Never mind her. Let's eat first. As she spoke, a door opened outside. Everyone turned to look. An 18-year-old girl, whose features resembled Ji Won-yu's, called out to her parents, Dad, Mom. Ji Yiren greeted them. Her gaze landed on Ji Won-yu. But Ji Won-yu didn't look at her. She set her teacup down on the coffee table. When she looked at me, there was obvious dislike in her eyes. I looked away, understanding clearly. I had never met Ji Won-yu's 18-year-old sister before. And yet I was disliked at first sight. Lan Yuyin finally stood up. How did you sweat so much? Go wash up quickly. Ji Yiren, who had just run back, scratched her head. Did you run back? She asked. I didn't run, she said. I just walked a bit faster. The house wasn't prepared for children. Linger was using a spoon, so I simply fed her myself. Linger opened her mouth obediently while holding the little pig. Why is she eating? Ji Minkian stared at Linger with displeasure and at the little pig in her hands. Why is she still playing while eating? She's this old and still hasn't been taught table manners. Kids from small, humble families are all like this. His sudden outburst scared Linger. Her big watery eyes looked at him with confusion. Lan Yuyin patted Ji Minkian's hand. Why are you fussing with a child? A child who's almost 3 and still can't speak is just a child. Of course she's still a child. I had stayed silent all afternoon, but now I understood everything clearly. This family looks down on others. They look down on me, a son-in-law of mismatched status, and they dislike Linger as well. Since we arrived this afternoon, not even one of them looked me in the eye. I spoke up. Linger isn't even 3 yet. She's not good with chopsticks yet. At home, she uses children's chopsticks. When we're out, I feed her. Ji Minkian already disapproved of me. He put his chopsticks down. Is that how you talk to your elders? I wasn't afraid of him at all. 2 elders who deserve respect. Of course, I wouldn't speak like this. Lan Yuyin tried to smooth things over. All right, it's my fault. I should have remembered that Linger can't use chopsticks yet. Ji Minkian said sarcastically, implying blame. What's strange about that? You, Yiren, could feed yourself at 3. You even knew how to clean up your toys. Before I could respond, Ji Won-yu slammed her chopsticks heavily on the table. Do we have to argue every month when I come back? If you found someone decent, you could come back every day, and we wouldn't argue at all. I also slammed my chopsticks on the table. Who's not decent here? Anyone would go crazy with such a picky father. Who are you calling a picky father? I raised my voice. I'm calling you a picky father. Ji Minkian, who was always praised, was now fuming. Look at you, good looking, but your husband is still fooling around after marriage. That scandal stirred up a storm, and now you dare scold me too. If you had listened to me back then, and not brought in all those shady people, would things have turned out this way? It's a complete joke in our social circle. I had nothing left to hold back. I went all in. Since we've already torn off the mask, don't blame the road if you can't walk straight. Does your family have some throne to inherit? You think everyone treats you with respect. They're probably cursing you behind your back. How can you speak to your elders like that? Shinhao couldn't help but step in. And you? Are you so eager to get cursed to? Stupid simp, stupid simp. Who are you calling that? Whoever responds, that's who. I crossed my arms. Hearing that, Shinhao gritted his teeth in fury. Don't think I don't know you're just a gold digger. After marrying in and not getting approval from your uncle, you immediately went to find another sucker. That's enough, Ji Won, you said coldly. Linger was frightened. I held Linger in my arms. I comforted the baby. Don't be afraid. Daddy is here to support you. Linger trembled slightly, clinging tightly to the clothes on my chest. Only then did Lan Yuan speak up. She stopped them. Stop arguing. The child is still here. Ji Won stood up and picked up Linger. She held my wrist through her sleeve. Chun Sheng said, let's go. Ji Minkian stood up from the chair. Wan Yu just came back and now she's leaving again. Linger lay on Ji Yu's shoulder, afraid to look around, holding the little pig plush tightly in her hands. Ji Yu coldly said, talk to me when you respect my husband and my child. Ji Yu's only response was to turn and leave. Ji Minkian let out a sigh and sat back down in the chair. His marriage with Ji Yu's mother was a business arrangement. They each got what they needed from it and did not interfere with each other. Later, when Lan Yuan got pregnant, they got divorced. Ji Yu's birth was an accident to begin with. Having her was merely a last resort. She had once tried to raise her as an heir. But after her birth, and especially after the old master died, she seemed to gradually neglect this daughter. Until one day, she saw Ji Yu's name in financial news. Only then did she realize how much she had grown. Lan Yuan placed the tea in front of him and patted his chest while doing so. This child really lacks manners. Xinghao chimed in, no upbringing at all. Ji Yu on the side still hadn't recovered from that verbal battle. When did Zhao Yichen become so defiant? Every time he returned here, he used to be so submissive, so cautious. Storming off and slamming the door did look pretty cool. Returning to the villa, it's getting late. Linger finished her bath. I leaned against the headboard and told her a story. She was a little excited. It was her first time sleeping with Dad. I told her stories to lull her to sleep. Finishing the second one, I looked down at the little one in my arms. Piggy was tightly shutting her eyes. Her mouth was pressed tightly shut. I suddenly felt like teasing her. I poked Linger's soft cheek. Are you asleep? Raise your hand if you're asleep, little one. The little one in my arms didn't move. I said, so Linger isn't asleep. Then let me tell another one. As soon as I finished speaking, a chubby little hand rose up. I tried to hold in my laughter. A child who's asleep will also touch their nose. The next second, that little hand touched her own nose. Linger is asleep. I just leaned back a bit. Then I said I should go to bed too. I clearly saw the corners of Linger's mouth droop. The little princess in the fairy tale sneaks into Daddy's arms after falling asleep, so that she can see Daddy first thing in the morning. Sure enough, Linger in the distance secretly smiled. She quietly opened one eye, accurately spotting where I was. Like a little piglet, she scooted into my arms. My heart melted from the cuteness. I laughed out loud, then got up halfway to turn off the light. The hallway light stretched the woman's shadow long at the door. Through the gap in the doorway, she looked like a thief peeking in on the happiness inside. Until the light went out, and the room fell into complete darkness, with nothing visible. Only then did she reluctantly leave. She walked to the bedside. Ji Yu dialed a number. The call was quickly answered. Help me look into someone. Zhao Yichen, check his recent movements. Inside the quiet room at night, the noise from outside was completely shut out. Two women sat on the leather sofa. Unparalleled elegance. With a soft thud, the tablet fell onto the glass table. Su Shihan said, take a look. It's all here. Just revolving around that Miss Lu. Nothing else. Ji Yu took it and skimmed through it roughly. Su Shihan propped up her chin and said, to be honest, that one really is patient, relentlessly persistent. Lu Yue has had one after another beside her, but nothing progressed between the two. Seems like all the guys like her type. Ji Yu's eyes turned slightly jaded. So many choices out there. Yet he insists on hanging from just one tree. Su Shihan raised an eyebrow. Her beautiful peach blossom eyes always carried a bit of affection toward everyone, but now they held a trace of disappointed exasperation. Ji Yu stared blankly at the orange liquid in her glass, zoned out for a long while, before speaking. Do you think one body could hold two souls? Su Shihan froze, hand in midair. Are you so heartbroken you're talking nonsense now? Ji Yu gave a weak smile. It's just self-deception. She lifted her hand and downed the drink in one go. Su Shihan clicked her tongue. I really don't understand you. All the sentimental sorrow over love. Are you still hoping he'll come back? To be honest, in our circle, marriage is just a bargaining chip. Ji-won put the empty glass back on the table. If it weren't for Zhao Yichen, I wouldn't marry at all. Su Shihan refilled her glass and gave her a speechless look. You're hopeless. She wanted to say something harsh, but held back thinking of what Ji-won had endured over the years. She saw it all. Back then, the company was in a growth phase, and I was filing for divorce. Linger was still young, couldn't leave her at home. As for the Jiu family, don't even mention them. I could only take care of her myself. Later, Linger couldn't speak. It was the first time Su Shihan saw Ji-won like that. A person who wouldn't flinch even before Mount Tai. Slowly sat down on the ground leaning against the hospital wall. All poise gone. Blankly shedding tears. Su Shihan swirled the wine glass in her hand. So what now? Are you really going to just let go? A hint of confusion flashed in her eyes. Su Shihan sighed. There are plenty of flowers in the world. Why fall for just one blossom? By the way, Su Shihan suddenly looked at the woman with a calm expression. That project in the south of the city. Rumor has it the rival is the Liu family. Ji-won paused her motion of swirling the wine glass. Cold and scheming. I'll handle the negotiation personally. Late at night, I couldn't sleep soundly. In my dream, or maybe in someone else's dream, I peered into someone else's life. Fragments without any logic. For tonight's straight, the woman with an indistinct face appeared in my dreams. She said we were meant to be together. As soon as she said that, I fell into a deep abyss. The dream kept changing endlessly. The helplessness of being unable to do anything broke me, especially when Linger was pushed down the stairs. I couldn't do a thing. In the darkness, I suddenly opened my eyes. The feeling in my arms was real. I gasped for air. Turned my head in the dark. Looked at the warm little bundle in my arms. It was that dream again. I dreamed of my 24-year-old self again. If at 24 I really like Liu Yue, then it would be like how I liked Ji-won at 18. Like her, the first morning, I didn't sleep well all night. Gradually, I opened my eyes. Still felt the soft warmth in my arms. I looked down and met Linger's big, blinking eyes. Good morning. I pinched her soft little cheeks. Today is a very special day for Linger, because it's the day she starts kindergarten. For the first time in 3 months, both mom and dad took her together. I was the one who tied the little pigtails on her head. I also picked out a light yellow suspender dress. When the teacher took her away, Linger turned to look back at us. Go ahead, go ahead. Daddy will pick you up after school. I waved at her. In the car, I sat in the back seat and asked, Isn't Linger a bit too young for kindergarten? Ji-won gave me a doting glance through the rearview mirror. Kindergarten, besides home, where I'm present, is the safest place for Linger, she added. I pressed my lips together, stayed silent for a while before saying, From now on, I'll take care of Linger. If you're worried, you can assign someone to follow me. The only reply I got was silence. I don't know why, but I felt a bit afraid of Ji-won at this age. I liked her when I was 18. But it was just liking nothing more, yet I couldn't help looking into her eyes. Those cool, distant eyes held emotions I couldn't understand. And somehow, my heart ached along with them. Just drop me off at that corner, I said, pointing toward the street sign ahead. Ji-won said flatly, I have a meeting this afternoon. After picking up Linger, come straight to the company for the evening banquet. If you want to go, I'll have someone prepare a suit. I responded, and got out of the car after it stopped. Thank you, I whispered as I watched the woman's car disappear from view. I ran to a nearby convenience store and bought a helmet, then rented a little e-scooter. Just wanted to get away from the awkwardness of being with Ji-won. I rode the scooter following the GPS. At a traffic light, Ji-won, wearing a Bluetooth earpiece, was listening to her assistant's arrangements over the phone. Suddenly, a familiar figure entered her view. The familiar silhouette made her dazed for a moment. She didn't snap out of it until I disappeared around the corner. Not until an impatient car horn behind her brought her back. Her assistant called out cautiously on the phone to President Ji-won. Ji-won let out a deep breath. She turned the steering wheel. Go ahead with that arrangement. The GPS said, You've arrived at your destination. I bought 2 cups of milk tea, then some snacks, and waited at the door. Moments later, someone called out to me, Yichin. I handed one of the milk teas to him. Kezin. Let's go in quickly. It's so hot today. Kezin took the things from my hands. I casually slung my arm around his shoulder. This place is like a maze. There are quite a few film crews here. Don't get lost. Will we see lots of celebrities? As we chatted, we arrived at the set. As soon as we entered, I saw someone resting on a recliner. I cautiously leaned over. Isn't that the male lead? Kezin nodded at me. A small blanket covered most of his face, so I couldn't see clearly. Kezin had a young assistant too, probably just started interning. Soon after, she started chatting with me, complaining about a certain female celebrity. I believe in seeing things for myself, but after watching a few scenes, I cracked. The first comic I ever read was drawn by Kezin, so I ran it along with them all afternoon. Seeing it was almost time for Linger to get out of school, I said goodbye to them. The young assistant was a little reluctant. I'll come find you next time I have to go pick up my daughter now. The young assistant was so surprised. Her mouth could fit an egg. You already have a school-age kid? Yep. I'll show you a photo next time. She's super cute. I put on my helmet, waved, and left coolly. As she watched me leave, the young assistant muttered, but he looks about the same age as me. He already has a kid. Have you seen Brother Zheng or Brother Chung's wife? I have. Kezin only turned back after I disappeared around the corner. She must be beautiful to tame. Someone as wild and handsome as Brother Chun. Kezin laughed. Your Brother Chun is totally wife-controlled. The kindergarten where Linger goes. From the outside, it looks like a castle for a princess. It's arguably the best kindergarten for children of nurses. It even has its own small zoo inside, and a botanical garden. Unless it's raining, kids stay outdoors and spend most of their time in nature. Of course, the tuition is quite high. Most kids here come from wealthy or influential families. As school letting out time approached, a crowd of luxury cars gathered at the entrance, which made my little scooter look even more out of place. Honestly, I'd love to drive a luxury car too. I have a driver's license in the drawer, but I never actually learned how to drive. Xiaoba City Party member. I'm a law-abiding citizen, through and through. After locking the scooter, I headed inside. You need an access card to check in or out. I admired the scenery along the way. When I reached Linger's classroom, the teacher noticed I was a new face. Hello. Hello, sir. I'm Zhao Linger's father. The teacher froze for a second. Usually, it's a female assistant who picks her up. I glanced inside and saw Linger, sitting quietly in a corner, holding a storybook in her hands. Other kids were running all around. But it didn't bother her at all. Linger. I called out toward her. Hearing my voice, she looked up, blinking once, then carefully closed her book and placed it back on the little bookshelf in the corner. Some other kids noticed me standing outside. Is that your brother? Zhao Linger shook her head and ran toward the door. Why are you asking? He's mute. He can't even talk. How can you say that? Why not? My mom says people who can't talk are mute. The teacher saw Linger running over and bent down to ask. Zhao Linger, sweetheart, is this your dad? Linger nodded and reached out to me. The teacher said, sir. You may take Linger now. Holding Linger's hand, I said, thank you, baby. Say bye-bye to the teacher. Linger waved to the teacher, who looked pleasantly surprised, quickly saying goodbye to us. After we walked out, I took out the small helmet I bought earlier and put it on Linger. Then I put the big one on myself. I lifted her onto the front seat, amidst all the astonished stares. All they saw was a cool departing figure. Linger, having never ridden this before, clung tightly to my back. Her eyes squeezed shut tightly. Take off. Only the sound of rushing wind filled her ears. She curiously opened one eye. Everything around her was flying by in reverse. She was a bit amazed. Just then, a luxury car passed by. Mommy. What's that? So cool. A little boy pointed excitedly at the small electric scooter. The woman next to him, dripping in jewels, followed the direction of his finger. She gave a soft huh. It's the first time I've seen a vehicle like that here. So rare. Linger's little pigtails danced happily in the wind. We stopped at a shopping mall. I lifted her off the seat, took off her helmet, and squatted down in front of her. Baby, it's still early. How about I take you for something yummy? Linger blinked at me, then pointed back at the now locked scooter. After we eat, Ride that to go see mommy. Linger nodded. Only then did I hold her hand and walk into the shopping mall. Found a fast food restaurant. Chose a seat by the window. I ordered some snacks. Got myself a Coke. Also got Linger a freshly squeezed orange juice. The food came out quickly. I unwrapped the box. Scooped out the center of the egg tart with a spoon. Blew on it to cool it down and fed it to Linger. Linger opened her mouth. Her eyes lit up. Is it tasty? Linger nodded. I continued feeding her. Fed her to more bites. Linger took the spoon and scooped one for me. Thank you, sweetheart. I blew on the piping hot chicken nugget for her. My phone rang. I took off my gloves, pulled it out and took a look. There was a friend request on WeChat. Clearly a couple's profile picture. The username was just a period. The request reason was blunt, Jiwanyu. I was surprised again. We didn't even have each other on WeChat. I clicked accept. They sent a question mark. I was speechless for a second. My fingers flew as I typed. Almost there. Traffic jam. No further reply from them. A spoon touched my lips. I turned. Linger was feeding me. I opened my mouth and ate. Thank you, Linger. I curiously opened Jiwanyu's moments. She said it to only show posts from the past year. She hadn't posted anything this whole year. Put away my phone and continued eating. After we were full, there was still a blind box on the tray. I used a wet wipe to clean Linger's greasy little hands. Linger, open this and see what's inside. Linger took it, tore open a small part one had started. Inside was a My Melody riding a rocking horse. So cute. Do you like this one, Linger? Linger nodded. Let's go. We went to find mommy. The meeting with Jiwanyu went smoothly. There was none of that novel-like scene of being looked down on by the receptionist, and no CEO showing up heroically to save the day. Jiwanyu's office was very spacious. It even had a rest area. Just as we were let in by the assistant, there were voices outside. The office door was pushed open again. Jiwanyu, who was listening to her assistant's report, met my gaze. Seeing that slightly flustered face, she seemed a bit dazed for a moment. Linger ran over on her short legs and hugged Jiwanyu's leg. She raised her hand and interrupted the assistant. That's enough. Just organize the rest and give it to me later. Then she picked Linger up. Yes, Director Jiu. Her gaze swept across the helmets on the desk. One big and one small. Why did it take you so long to get here today? I answered honestly. I took Linger to get something to eat. KFC? I was surprised. How did you know? Jiwanyu didn't respond. She just calmly glanced at the My Melody toy in Linger's hand. Before we could talk more, there was a knock at the office door. A group of women in professional attire entered. Some were carrying suits and dresses, and one of them had a suitcase. The woman leading the group, addressing Jiu, made a welcoming gesture toward me. Sir, please come with me. I remember tonight's banquet. And followed them into the lounge, changed into the outfit, and came out. Jiwanyu's heart skipped a beat. She only took one glance before looking away. Let's go. I held her hand supportively. Linger had changed into a princess dress. Her soft hair was styled into a bun. Decorated with a pearl hair clip, she looked like a sweet little strawberry cake. The extended Lincoln was parked under a luxurious villa pavilion. Just as she tried to open the car door, her delicate makeup paired with a white evening gown, that stunning face looked even more beautiful. I picked Linger up from the child seat. The baby had inherited the best features from both of us. Those big eyes perfectly took after mine. Beautiful and delicate, but her temperament resembled her cold and aloof mother. One little hand wrapped in bandages. The other held a slightly worn-out piggy plush toy. Jiwanyu wrapped her arm around mine and followed the host into the banquet hall. I looked at the grand surroundings. Even this elite banquet, I had managed to enter. As soon as we entered, someone approached to flatter the Su family. The commotion at the entrance was too much. Everyone turned and saw the two of us together, and was slightly surprised. Yichin. I looked in the direction of the voice. Kezin in a blue and white suit. Kezin. I reached out and put my arm around his shoulder. At that moment I touched him. Jiwanyu's expression turned gloomy and unreadable. Kezin lowered his voice. Don't wander off. Completely unaware of Jiwanyu's shift in expression, I knew and put my finger to my lips. In the novel, at the banquet, something unusual is bound to happen. Kezin laughed. I turned to her. I'll take care of Linger. You go ahead. Jiu Wan Yu kissed Linger and turned to leave. I held Linger and found a seat in the corner. Ordered an orange juice for her. This is just too extravagant. The luxury and debauchery dazzled the eyes. Kezin said, when you were 24. You attended plenty of these banquets. I was about to reply, when a sudden noise came from that side. I looked over. Though it was meant to be a formal event, a woman not far away was dressed like a flamboyant butterfly. So pretentious. She glanced this way unintentionally. When she saw me, she froze for a second, then quickly looked away. I didn't care at first, but when I turned my head, I met Kezhin's probing eyes. Who's that butterfly-looking woman? Lu Yue, I replied casually with an O. Then I realized something. Wait, who? Kezhin lowered his voice. It's her. At 24, she was the one who caused a fuss demanding Jiu Wan Yu get a divorce because of her. I was speechless. Looking at that woman being surrounded, my expression turned a bit complex. No matter how you look at her, she didn't seem like a decent lady. I was really hungry. You're really hungry. It was obvious Kezhin wasn't into that type either. A sweet aroma reached my nose. I looked down. Linger was feeding me a small cupcake. Thank you, baby. I took it from her. Linger then offered another cupcake to Kezhin. Kezhin pinched her chubby little cheek. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a small figure. It was the girl who had played on the slide with Linger the other day. She was holding a man's hand, and when she saw us, the man nodded at us with a faint smile. I returned a smile, but before I could turn back, Linger jumped off the sofa on her own and handed a small cupcake to Nwonuo. Thank you, sister. Linger smiled softly at him. The man in the black suit squatted down in front of her. So cute. Are you here alone, sweetheart? Linger pointed at me as I was walking over. Hello. The man looked a bit surprised, then smiled. You look so young, yet you already have a kid this big. I smiled back. You look just as young. Hello, Chengde. The man smiled and said, hello. Zhao Yichen. Chengde raised an eyebrow. I've heard of you. I joked. Probably not good things. Chengde shrugged. That's nothing. After all, there are just as many bad rumors about me as there are about you. We exchanged smiles. Actors like us can talk easily. Linger was taken outside to play by Nwonuo. Chengde looked like a cold and difficult person. But the more we talked, the more I realized. Turns out he's just a silly softy at heart. A guy approached Kezhin. Kezhin stood up. Qinghao said, my sister asked me to find you. Grandpa is over there. The sunny and handsome boy in front of me gave me a quick, sharp glance. Kezhin's expression shifted slightly. I'll introduce you to later. I'm going first. I'll come find you in a bit. I nodded, okay. A woman sat down right next to me. I instantly bounced up from my seat. Lu Yue raised an eyebrow. Mr. Zhao, sorry. I'm a bit sensitive to perfume. Hearing that, Lu Yue was momentarily stunned. Chengde lowered his gaze as well. I sensed something unusual between them. Made an excuse to sneak away. I'm going to the restroom. Wait, I'll come with you. I glanced at Lu Yue's expression. 2 rings headed to the restroom and walked outside the banquet hall. Is she your sister? I asked curiously. You two don't look alike at all. No. Chengde took a sip of his drink. Lu Yue's dad is my stepfather. As he spoke, he smiled at me. Sorry. My wife doesn't really like me being around other women, so don't take it the wrong way. Chengde turned to look at me. I heard people say you like Lu Yue. But it doesn't seem that reliable now. Have you met Jiu Wan Yu? Chengde nodded, waiting for my response. I said frankly, that's the type one like. I always have. Chengde laughed. His gaze shifted to the distance. It's fine. There were even rumors years ago that I like Lu Yue too. I was surprised. Is Lu Yue some kind of femme fatale? Anyone who gets near her falls for her. Chengde's smile turned a bit forced. Annie, why are you here? A girl's voice called out. I turned my head, and my eyes widened instantly. The woman was tall and elegant, and Chengde had already rushed over to her, instantly turned sweet and affectionate. Wife, didn't you say you wouldn't come back? Xiao hugged him and said, surprised. Chengde held her tightly. I'm beyond happy. Oh right, He introduced her. Xiao wasn't alone. Ji Wanyu and Su Shihong were with her. From the moment Ji Wanyu entered, her expression seemed a little dazed. She quietly went off to the side. Xiao tugged on his arm. Mom and Dad are here. Let's go in. Yichin, I'm heading off. Next time, don't forget to invite me. Sure. The two of them started showing affection like no one else was around, until their voices could no longer be heard. Ji Wanyu's face remained expressionless. Where's Linger? She asked. I pointed to the distance. Over there playing. It's over here. We can leave now. I'll go get Linger. You wait here for me. I watched Ji Wanyu's graceful figure. Why could I feel Ji Wanyu's emotions? Hey, Zhao Yichin. Man, today has been crazy. Qinhao approached him with a wine glass. I forced a fake smile. What do you want now? Qinhao lifted his chin, though not very confidently. Last time you said that about me. How about I give you a chance to apologize? No thanks, I rejected flatly. Qinhao was infuriated. Zhao Yichin. I looked at him speechless. Keep your voice down. People inside might think I'm bullying you. Qinhao sneered. If my aunt hadn't banned me from cursing, I'd definitely curse you out right now. Did you know that Wanyu has been getting close to some guy lately? Who? Qinhao gave me a mocking look. You didn't cherish her yourself. Someone has to love her sincerely, right? So after all this time, it still wasn't my turn. My gaze softened with sympathy. Qinhao forced himself to calm down, then said, Didn't you say you didn't like Wanyu? Then why are you still sticking around her? Because I want to. What's it to you? If you're so capable, make Ji Wanyu dump me. Right after I said that, I froze a bit. Where did I even get the confidence to say that? Who knows what you're really planning? Qinhao lifted his champagne. I like Wanyu, but I want you to be my only rival. I asked casually, why? Qinhao closed his eyes. I don't want to be the fourth wheel, at least the third. Zhao Yichin, I can tell you who the actual third party is. Then, what do you want? Now that it's come to this. I could pretty much guess what Qinhao wanted. Apologize to me. Qinhao looked at me intensely. Hey. About what you said before. He didn't finish the sentence. Because I cut him off. Qinhao fell silent for a few seconds. I looked at him calmly. Ready to talk. Qinhao swallowed down the blood rising in his throat, but tried his best to hold his expression. He handed me a glass of champagne. Fair enough. Drink this, and let's call it even between us. I gave him a complicated look, watching as excitement practically spilled from Qinhao's eyes. I reached out and pushed the glass back. Take a look at this. I scraped the inside of the glass with my finger and got some residue on it. When you bought the drug, didn't the shopkeeper offer you the instant dissolve version? Qinhao raised the glass to his eyes. No way, diet. I stirred it really well. At that moment, Ji Wanyu came walking over with Linger in her arms. Let's go. But I hesitated for a second. Master Qin still wants me to have a drink with him. Ji Wanyu turned to look at Qinhao, at the glass in his hand, the one he hadn't even stirred properly. Qinhao tried to hide his guilt. He hid the glass behind his back. Didn't you say you didn't want a drink? Then forget it. Ji Wanyu ordered coldly. Bring it out. Qinhao looked a bit scared. The woman's eyes landed on him like sharp blades. Under pressure, he brought out the wine and drank it. Qinhao shot a glare at my gloating face, then shut his eyes and gulped it down. Drank it to the bottom. The undissolved crystal slid back to the bottom of the glass. Only then did Ji Wanyu stride out of the banquet hall. I cast him a sympathetic look. No one else like Ziz or Liang Sheng noticed anything. Only then did Qinhao spit out the drugged wine. Damn it, I'm dead. I'm so screwed. He hurriedly rinsed his mouth with the glass of untainted wine. After the nausea wore off, he pulled out his phone that he'd been guarding. When he saw the caller ID, he clenched his lips and answered, It's me. I'm sorry, the wine didn't get delivered. All he got was a busy tone. Qinhao stared at the darkened screen, lips pursed. He reached into his pocket. Inside was a brand new, unopened packet of powdered drug. He exhaled a long, heavy breath and walked to the restroom. With the sound of the toilet flushing, the powder vanished. The banquet was over. We drove home. Linger had dozed off in the car. Even in her sleep, she was smacking her lips. Once home, I carried the sleeping Linger to her room, lowered my voice, just put her straight on the bed. She leaned in a little closer, A wave of aggressive aura hit me. My ears turned red. She said no. Linger is a clean freak. She wake up in the middle of the night. The two of us were getting a little too close. The breath from speaking tickled my ear. Report it when something happens. As she spoke, Ji Wanyu gently patted Linger's back. Gentle and patient. Linger, be good. I told a little lie. After the bathtub was filled with water, the two of them worked together to take off Linger's princess dress. Slippery like a mermaid. Linger slowly woke up from her dream. She rubbed her eyes. Her big sleepy eyes full of drowsiness. Let's take a bath and then go back to sleep, okay? There was a tenderness in my voice even I didn't notice. Linger nodded obediently. She quickly finished bathing. As I was putting Linger on the bed and about to leave, she held me back. I lowered my head. What is it? A soft kiss landed on my cheek. I froze for a moment. My heart melted a little. Good night, baby. Linger smiled brightly. She glanced at Ji Wanyu. She leaned in. Linger planted a kiss on her cheek. After kissing, Linger leaned back against her little pillow and closed her eyes contentedly. After closing the door to Linger's room, I was still a little dazed. The next day, I lay on the little bed and let out a satisfied sigh. Seriously though, 24-year-old me is really someone who enjoys life. Just met Chun the last night, and today I've already been dragged over for a massage. According to Kejin's description, the actress on set has a big ego. She also likes to change the script. He has to supervise personally to prevent the script from being completely ruined. Chun-Yi turned to me. Which actress did Kejin say had a big ego? Seems like it's the one who just recently got popular. Chun-Li raised an eyebrow. That's how this industry is. When someone gets lifted up, it's easy for them to get arrogant. I nodded in agreement. Kejin told me a lot. That actress, when she first debuted, seemed polite and motivated. But once she got popular, she even forgot her original intentions. Not long ago, at Kejin's, I had been on that film set before. Saw that rising star with my own eyes, suppressing newcomers. Now that they're at the top, they've almost forgotten how tough the journey was. Chun-Yi squinted comfortably all night. Next time, let's take Kejin camping. Camping? Chun-Li nodded and said, bring Monuo and Linger too. Alright. I rolled over. By the way, are you close with Lu Yue? Hearing that, Chun-Yi's expression changed. I said speechlessly, is he crazy or something? What's going on? Chun-Li laughed a bit roguishly. He clearly rejected me so coldly before. Then after I ignored him at the banquet, he started clinging again, sending flirty messages and all. It annoyed me so much I blocked him. Yichin, don't get too close to him. Chun-Yi's face turned a little serious. What is it? I turned to look at him, just as Chun-Li was about to speak. His phone, placed nearby, started ringing. The masseur handed it over to me. My expression changed when I saw the caller. Wait for me. I'm coming right now. I hung up and immediately started getting dressed. Sorry, Chun-Li. I might have to miss our plans today. I need to go to the kindergarten. What happened? Chun-Li saw my serious face. Linger got into a fight. I need to go check on it. I'll drive you there. No need. Let's reschedule. I didn't have time to say more. Grabbed my coat and rushed out. It's very close, even though I haven't spent much time with Linger. I know her well. Her personality is very similar to Ji Wanyu's. There's no way she would start a fight. After I got out, I scanned a shared electric scooter and sped toward the kindergarten. Luckily, it wasn't far from here. I arrived quickly, stopped right at the familiar school gate. Maybe I was a bit too anxious. The scooter hadn't come to a full stop yet. I reached back to support my lower back. I bumped into a luxury car that had just parked. I hissed as I hit my backside. But I didn't have time to complain or care. Just then, a flashy woman dressed in jewels stepped out. She got out of the car and looked at me with contempt. I had just thrown on some casual clothes to go out. My jacket draped over my arm. Wearing a plain white t-shirt on top, I looked youthful and sunny. Sorry, I just bumped into you. I didn't stop and walked straight inside. The elegant woman frowned. Led by the security guard, I arrived at Linger's teacher's office. I knocked on the door. The door opened quickly from the inside. Hello. How should I address you? The speaker was Linger's teacher. I had met her once before. I'm Linger's father. Last name Zhao. I stepped past her and glanced around the room. Linger stood quietly in a corner. One hand nervously clutched her little pig plush toy. On the other side was a little boy. An adult was sitting with him, playing toy cars in the corner. The noise was loud. You could even hear the boy laughing. The two kids were separated by some distance, like they were into different worlds. Mr. Zhao, here's the situation. Sorry, I'd like to check on Linger first. Is that okay? The teacher quickly stepped aside. Of course, please comfort her first. We'll talk more when Haohao's parents arrive. Alright, thank you. I then walked toward the corner. Linger, I softly called her name. She flinched instinctively. I squatted behind her. Let Daddy check if you're hurt anywhere. Only then did Linger turn around. She looked at me cautiously. Linger had a small bump on her forehead. It was red and swollen. Does it hurt? I looked at her with concern. In that instant, her big eyes welled up with tears. She pouted and stared at me pitifully. I didn't know how to describe this feeling, but seeing one child being accompanied at the door, while another stood all alone in the corner, was enough to make my heart ache. Everyone here only cares about status and appearances. Usually it's the assistant who comes to handle things. Linger was afraid when she first saw me, but when she heard my gentle voice, it was like a drifting soul finding a lifeline. Even her heart calmed down. I gently held her in my arms. Don't be afraid, Daddy is here. Daddy's got your back, baby. And then, almost instantly, Linger started crying loudly in my arms. I nearly choked up myself. For the first time, I cursed myself deep down. The office door was pushed open again. Mrs. Wine walked in, pushing aside the teacher in front of her. She went straight to her son, checked him carefully. Baby, did you get hurt? The child puffed up his chest proudly. I didn't get hurt. I won the fight. Mrs. Wang breathed a sigh of relief, then stood up. She looked at the teacher with a reproachful gaze. Teacher, everyone's time is valuable. Next time, don't make a big deal out of something so small. Before the teacher could speak, I couldn't hold it back anymore. Mrs. Wang, was it? Your son lacks manners. Isn't that something the school should deal with? Mrs. Wang gave an impatient glance and scoffed. Manners? You call this manners? A grown man being some woman's boy toy at your age. Linger is here, so I don't want to say anything too harsh. But just because I'm young and handsome. Mrs. Wang's face changed instantly. Wait a moment, Mr. Zhao, Mrs. Wang. The teacher quickly cut off the argument between the two of us. Here's what happened. The two children were fighting over a toy this afternoon. That led to the conflict. As soon as she finished speaking, Linger peeked her little head out of my arms. Her eyes were red, and a big teardrop slid down her cheek. She held up the stuffed toy she always carried to show me. Wherever Linger went, the little pig toy was always in her hand. When inconvenient, she'd tuck it under her neck. That pink and white pig had been washed so many times it faded. The stitching on it was now crooked and loose. At the moment, the back of the pig was torn open. White cotton was spilling out. I let out a laugh of disbelief. This is what they call to kids fighting over a toy. The teacher looked a bit troubled, afraid to offend either side, especially Mrs. Wang. I thought it was something valuable, but it's just some worthless thing. It doesn't matter what it is. This belongs to Linger. Taking it without permission is called stealing. Your child is a thief. I'm not a thief. The little boy suddenly stopped playing with his toy car. I just wanted to see it. That dumb mute girl wouldn't give it to me. I only pulled because she wouldn't share and fell herself. Mrs. Wang patted her son's head and looked at us with disdain. Still just a mute girl, a daughter, and I'm mute at that. Mr. Zhao, let me give you some advice. A word of warning. Before she's fully rejected, try to get yourself a normal child using any means. Better that than riding some busted scooter through wind and rain. I swallowed it down, tried to steady my voice. Linger. Be good, close your eyes, cover your ears, and stand in the corner. Unless Daddy calls you, don't turn around, okay? Linger didn't understand why, but still got up from my arms and walked to the corner covering her ears. I stood up, my eyes cold, and walked toward Mrs. Wang. I raised my hand and slapped her. Mrs. Wang, who was always treated with flattery, never expected this. She took the slap directly. I used all my strength. Mrs. Wang clutched her face, eyes filled with rage. You dare hit me? So what if I did? The little boy playing with the toy car seemed frightened. He dropped the toy and hid behind the teacher who had been with him. The teacher noticed the situation escalating and tried to separate the two sides. Mr. Zhao. Just then a driver burst in through the door. He pushed me aside and stood in front of Mrs. Wang. Mrs. Wang shouted furiously, Zhao, right? I don't know which sugar mama you've latched onto. That makes you so bold. But remember this slap. You arrogant brat who doesn't know your place. I was shoved like a dog. I snapped back. You keep saying others are low class. But honestly, your whole vibe screams nouveau rich. And your kid is twisted too. I'm not the one who doesn't know his place. You're just a frog in a well. Who are you calling nouveau rich? Is that hard to understand? I said you're a street shrew. I smirked. Mrs. Wang clenched her teeth, then pointed at the driver. Go hold that brat down for me. At this point, even the teachers saw things were getting out of hand. She stepped forward and said, Mrs. Wang, the office has full audio and video surveillance. If you lay hands on Mr. Zhao here, he has the right to press charges. It's just a small conflict between two kids. No need to escalate it. Don't you agree? Mrs. Wang signaled her bodyguard to back off, then walked toward me with disdain. She smirked and said, so what? Even outside of here, I could still beat you until you submit. With your fat face and big ears, do you think you could take on someone light and agile like me? I kept poking at her sore spots again and again. Mrs. Wang raised her hand directly. Let's see how tough that mouth of yours really is today. But before the slap could land, her wrist was caught. Mrs. Wang's eyes flared with rage. She turned to face an icy cold expression. Even though she rarely got involved in her husband's business affairs, she had seen plenty of financial news alongside him. Ji Wanyu's name frequently dominated the financial headlines. Mrs. Wang had a bad feeling, but she maintained her composure on the surface. President Ji Wanyu let go of her hand and walked toward me. She gave me a subtle once-over. Are you okay? I still hadn't recovered from the shock of her sudden appearance. I'm fine, President Ji. I didn't expect to run into Mrs. Wang here. She had already switched to a different face. Really? Ji Wanyu turned and glanced at her lightly. If you hadn't seen me, would that slap have landed on my husband's face? Mrs. Wang's carefully maintained smile was starting to falter. So Mr. Zhao is actually President Gu's husband. It wasn't such a big deal between the two children. It really wasn't worth upsetting the harmony over. It shouldn't have happened. Ji Wanyu's hand gently rested on my waist. Maybe she touched a bruise because I flinched instinctively. She noticed it immediately and curled her fingers, discreetly withdrawing her hand. Are you threatening me? Her tone sounded even colder than before. Realizing she had said something wrong, Mrs. Wang quickly lowered her stance. No, President Jiu. I overreacted. I was being unreasonable. It's my fault I didn't raise. Yes, I'll be sure to educate him properly when we get home. Didn't you just insult me so confidently? I can't stand this kind of groveling behavior. What did I say about you? Ji Wanyu mocked her, but her tone had clearly softened. Mr. Zhao Ji Wanyu glanced coldly to the side, lightly saying, my husband is speaking. Mrs. Wang fell silent. I suddenly felt emboldened. She called me a gigolo. She insulted Linger, said I was living off others, and even pushed me. Mrs. Wang's face went pale. Mr. Zhao, I am truly sorry. I didn't know you were Jiu. The meaning on Ji Wanyu's face deepened. She glanced calmly at the assistant by the door. The latter understood immediately and nodded slightly. Ji Wanyu stepped forward and picked Linger up from the corner, then walked over to me. Let's go, President Jiu. Mr. Zhao. Mrs. Wang tried to step forward, but the assistant blocked her and said, Mrs. Wang, you'd best take care of yourself. Consider this a warning. Then he turned and helped Linger file for a leave of absence. Mom, why are you afraid of them? You could have just told Dad. The little boy ran over. Just as Mrs. Wang was about to scold him, her phone rang. The bad feeling in her chest grew stronger. She answered the call. She hadn't even had time to ask what happened when the voice on the other end practically exploded. You idiot. What mess did you get into this time? We were supposed to sign the contract tonight. It was her husband, who was away on a business trip she hadn't known. She didn't know the man was Ji Wanyu's husband. Absolutely foolish. I've told you a million times to act humbly, but you just don't listen. Now that billion yuan deal is completely ruined, can't you use your brain for once? Mrs. Wang finally panicked. What should I do now? What else can you do? Figure out a way to apologize right now, or your days as a rich wife are over. You got rich halfway through life, and you could lose it all in one move. Mrs. Wang didn't even dare imagine it. She quickly agreed, but the assistant gave her no chance to get close. Her son didn't seem to care. He had no idea that tomorrow he might wake up to a completely different life. At the school gate, Jiu Wanyu set Linger down. Linger climbed into the child's seat by herself. I got in the car too. As we passed by each other, I moved slightly back. My lower back hit the car door. I sucked in a sharp breath, but my expression didn't show discomfort. Jiu Wanyu frowned slightly. What's wrong? I tried rubbing my waist. I hit the corner of the table just now. Jiu Wanyu instinctively reached out. Let me see. But when she touched the hem of my clothes, she hesitated. One maintained my previous position. Seeing she didn't move, I lowered my head and asked, aren't you going to look? Only then did Jiu Wanyu purse her lips. She lifted the hem of my clothes. My skin is quite fair. There was a red patch on my waist. I hit it when you pushed me. Jiu Wanyu's voice revealed no emotion. I nodded. It's fine. It should go down soon. Does it hurt? It doesn't hurt anymore. Just apply some ointment later. Only then did she let go of my clothes. She walked around to the driver's seat. I suddenly spoke. Just drop us off at an amusement park. Jiu Wanyu glanced at me through the rearview mirror, then changed lanes. The amusement park's giant castle sign looked luxurious and dreamy. At the entrance, mascots warmly hugged every child. When Linger was carried out of the car, she stared at those cute mascots. Adorably, I squatted in front of her. Do you want to shake hands with them? Linger was a bit shy. Her watery eyes looked at me. I held her hand and led her to the mascots. Mr. Bear in a tuxedo bowed to them like a gentleman. He reached out to Linger. Linger placed her little hand in his palm, like performing a magic trick. Mr. Bear took out a mini bear from behind him. It was a keychain, which he placed in Linger's hand. Then he extended his hand to me. Before I could reach out, Linger in front of me was picked up by someone. I looked up at her. Aren't you going to the office? No. She bounced Linger up and down. Let's go. All right. I left behind the still confused Mr. Bear and followed them into the park. Linger was put down. I helped her put away the little toy. I held Linger and rode the carousel. Linger was a little scared. One of her hands clung tightly to my pants, until the breeze brushed past her ears. She quietly opened her eyes. The carousel began to spin. Familiar music played overhead. Laughter surrounded us from older kids. Some sat on the carousel horses alone, while others, around Linger's age, were like her, with their dad or mom seated behind them. I guarded her with both arms. Lowering my head, I saw her eyes wide open, curiously looking around. Don't be afraid, Linger. Look over there. I pointed in a direction. Jiu Wanyu stood outside the ride watching us. All these years, I've changed but also stayed the same. It was as if I saw her younger self again. Back then, just like today. You were sportswear, sweating it out on the track, full of unyielding determination. Linger looked at Jiu Wanyu and smiled. Her eyes narrowed with joy. I waved at her. Linger, wave to mommy. Linger raised her chubby little hand and gave a wave. Jiu Wanyu gently lifted the corners of her lips. When the carousel stopped, I took Linger by the hand and stepped down. Jiu Wanyu handed me a bottle of water. Thanks. Then she opened another bottle and gave it to Linger. The sunlight poured down, bathing the whole castle in golden light. Since I came here, rarely have I seen Linger so unguarded, smiling so happily when interacting with the animals. She even reached out to touch them. She rubbed the mascot's hands too. Jiu Wanyu took Linger to ride bumper cars. I cheered for them from outside. All three of us had great looks, drawing many onlookers. Go, honey, go. Many other families were also cheering outside. I didn't want to lose. I made a paper megaphone and shouted, go, wife. Go, daughter. I felt a little shy after shouting. I wasn't sure if she heard it or not. Inside the arena, Jiu Wanyu used one hand to support Linger and protect her. She glanced sideways at me outside. With one hand, she did a drift and slammed into the people on both sides. Wow, so cool. I couldn't help but have stars in my eyes. Ha ha ha. Looks like your wife heard your cheer. Someone beside me teased playfully. I scratched my head a little embarrassed and smiled at them. Did she really hear it? As she turned her head, I happened to catch Ji Yu glancing my way. But she quickly looked away again. Back into the action. I've loved photography since I was little. Even majored in it in college. Though I don't have equipment now, my phone is full of photos of Linger. And also of a half-crying Ji Yu, only when she looks at Linger do her eyes soften. Look here. I raised my phone. They both turned their heads together. Linger opened her mouth, eating the ice cream Ji Yu fed her. She looked like a little kitten eating. I pressed the shutter. Feeling satisfied I'd captured Ji Yu with a genuine smile. I couldn't help but sigh. Aside from my excellent photography skills, Ji Yu's face truly had no bad angles. Linger received a warrior's medal and a little princess keychain. But she gave all the toys to me and kept her old, worn-out pig plushie. When we left the amusement park, the sky outside was already growing dark. The clouds were low, a sign that a storm was coming. Pushing open the revolving door, a mellow, pleasant cello melody drifted to my ears as we went upstairs. I opened the door to the private room. The scent of flowers filled the air. The floor-to-ceiling windows by the sofa overlooked the entire city. We waited for all the dishes to be served. Linger had already started to get sleepy. Her eyes were dazed and droopy. I placed some cool-down food into her bowl. Linger used a spoon to feed herself. She was so tired that her eyes could barely stay open. But when I handed her more food, she still squinted and smiled at me. After swallowing her food, Linger finally put down the spoon. Her little head bobbed up and down. She made me laugh. I put down my chopsticks and cupped her chubby little cheeks in both hands. Ji Yu pushed a plate toward me. Then she picked Linger up and placed her on the nearby sofa. I looked down. It was a plate of peeled shrimp. I pursed my lips and looked ahead. Most of the dishes on the table were my favorites. When she returned again, I quickly grabbed some ribs and placed them in her bowl. Eat more. You barely ate anything. Ji Yu hesitated for a moment, then her expression returned to calm. She began eating gracefully. We stepped out of the private room again. Ji Yu carried Linger into the elevator. Just as the elevator door was closing, a hand reached out to block me. I looked up instinctively and saw who it was. I froze for a moment. It was Lu Yue. I instinctively turned to look at Ji Yu and locked eyes with those deep, cool black eyes. Lu Yue didn't seem surprised at all. Long time no see. Although Mr. Zhao was greeting me, her gaze was fixed entirely on Ji Yu. It hasn't been that long. We saw each other at the last banquet. I retorted, oh, did we? Lu Yue raised her eyebrows. One day apart feels like 3 years. That's what Mr. Zhao told me. As soon as she finished speaking, the temperature in the small space started to drop. I was about to lose my mind from her, like a fluttering butterfly. Lu Yue had no intention of letting me go. Just because I ignored you for a few days. You treat me so coldly? You're really breaking my heart, Mr. Zhao. She pretended to clutch her chest. Those eyes looked like they carried electricity. Miss Lu's previous behavior and comments may have caused a misunderstanding. I sincerely apologize. I spoke while glancing at Ji Yu, but she didn't even look at me. You chased me for a year, and now you're giving up. You act all hurt. And suddenly it's over. Call me foolish, then. Didn't you used to say I looked better then? She cast a fleeting glance at Ji Yu. 10 times more beautiful. I was speechless. Fine, call me blind. Thankfully, the elevator stopped just then. With a ding, the elevator doors opened. Ji Yu walked out first carrying Linger. Before I could follow, my wrist was grabbed. My brow furrowed. Aren't you being a bit indecent now? Lu Yue looked at me with a mocking smile. Giving up this easily? That's not your style. Let go, Mr. Zhao. I yanked my hand hard, but couldn't break free. Before I could say more, Ji Yu returned. Her big eyes landed coldly on Lu Yue. Her voice was icy. He said let go, didn't you hear? Lu Yue raised an eyebrow. President Ji, weren't you the one holding on first? You should ask Mr. Zhao if he actually wants to leave with you. A flash of coldness passed through Ji Yu's eyes. But she said nothing more. She turned with my arm in her I suddenly spoke up. Of course, I want to go with her. The woman hesitated in her steps. Then she led me away. The two of us quickly disappeared from view. Only then did the assistant catch up. Miss Lu. Lu Yue gave her a faintly indulgent glance. I really don't believe there's a corner in the world that can't be pried open. She heard what I said just now loud and clear. But judging from her past actions, it all seems kind of ridiculous. The early summer night carried a slight chill. The moon hung high above the trees. The car slowly drove onto the road. I looked out through the window. The wind blew leaves all around. A few raindrops also began to fall. Wait, stop here for a bit. I asked her to stop. Ji Wanyu pulled over by the roadside. I got out of the car and walked into a supermarket. Not long after, I came back out with the bag. Shortly after returning home, Linger was already in her little bed, hugging her little pig, sound asleep. After I showered, I gently pushed open Linger's bedroom door, holding the sewing kit I bought from the supermarket. I carefully lifted Linger's blanket. As soon as I picked up the little pig, Linger opened her eyes and looked at me. Linger, I lay on the bed. I'll fix him for you. As I spoke, I gently turned the pig plushie over. The back seam had ripped open, revealing white stuffing. Only then did Linger let go. Only then did I begin working on the plushie. I took out the needle and thread, squinting to thread the needle. When I turned back, Linger was curiously craning her neck to watch my actions. I didn't know where to start. I turned to face her and scratched my head. Linger, I don't know how to sew this. How about we take it out to get fixed tomorrow? Linger looked a bit disappointed. She shook her head and reached out for the pig in my hands. I dodged her little hand. Let me try then. Linger nodded. It'll look really ugly. But she still nodded. Blinking her big eyes, she stared at me. Under her gaze, I made the first stitch. I hesitated a bit on the second stitch. I picked up my phone to search for a tutorial. When Ji Wanyu came in with warm milk, she saw two heads together on the bed. A scene of us closely huddled. How to sew a torn plush toy without visible marks. A voice came from the phone. I frowned as I finished watching the video. Linger and I exchanged a glance. Then I pushed the needle back in. The bed dipped where I sat. I turned to her. Do you know how to sew this? Ji Wanyu handed the milk to Linger. She glanced at me lightly. No. So I could only lower my head and continue. The torn area wasn't very big. Soon, I reached the final step. I lifted it up for a look. My brows furrowed. The previously smooth back of Linger's plush toy now had an obvious bump. Linger licked milk off her lips and smiled faintly. I cut the thread with scissors, put the needle back in the case and closed it. Linger took her little pig plushie, touched it contentedly, and scratched the back of his head. She looked a little shy. It looks kind of ugly. Linger smiled at me and climbed into my arms. Her little arms wrapped around my back and gently patted me. All right, time for bed, Linger. I gently hugged her. Only then did Linger leave my arms, obediently lifting the blanket and crawling into bed. She hugged the pig tightly to her chest, her little hand gently touching the bulge on the plushie's back. The room fell into darkness. Before the door closed, she heard a soft good night. Good night, Linger. She moved her lips slightly. Soon, Chenchen fell asleep. Did you come to the door for the West City project? It was so sudden. The woman beside me suddenly spoke coldly. What project? I was completely confused. Didn't Lu Yue tell you? Tonight is my first time meeting Lu Yue. Other than tonight, I've never met her before. She tell you? After saying that, Ji Wanyu turned and walked toward the study. Hey. I called out to her from where I stood. She stopped and waited for me to continue. How would she tell me? It's not like I'll meet with her. I know. The biggest conflict between me and Ji Wanyu at age 24 was all because of Lu Yue. Ji Wanyu didn't respond. She just kept walking forward. The graceful figure of the woman was illuminated by the lights in the corridor, casting a beautiful shadow behind her. I continued speaking. Besides, I've deleted all her contact information. I won't have any dealings with her again. Ji Wanyu's steps paused slightly. Then she turned to look at me. Her cool eyes were filled with complex emotion. As they landed on my face, for some reason, my head began to throb again. I frowned slightly, pretending to act normal, and lifted the corners of my lips. Linger has a follow-up at the hospital tomorrow. I froze for a moment, then nodded. Got it. Late at night, heavy rain poured down. The light in the study remained on. In front of the desk, the woman leaned back in her chair and rubbed her aching temples. After the soreness passed, she reached out and opened a drawer. She took out a camera and turned it on. The image was clear. The lens was focused. After the footsteps passed, her face appeared. Voices kept coming from inside the video. A crisp male voice. Now, and then mixed with a woman's helpless but doting tone. In the large room, the happiness seemed to come from the screen. But she had become an outsider, like a voyeur, torturing herself every night, trapping herself in the video. Only when the video ended would she pause in momentary confusion, then drag the video back to the start, starting over, like meeting again, like happiness again. But this time, when the video reached the end, she paused the sound and the video. Everything fell silent. In the corridor of the psychiatric hospital, there was the pungent smell of disinfectant and chaotic footsteps. Children may naturally have a fear of hospitals. Linger lay on my shoulder, uneasily gripping her little pig plush toy. Though she didn't like the smell of the hospital, Linger was still a little happy. When she injured her hand, Jiu Wanyu was away on a business trip. A housemaid had taken her here. This time both mom and dad were here together. Inside the consultation room, the doctor was holding the freshly taken x-ray. President Jiu, the child is recovering very well. Once the cast is removed, avoid intense activity. She needs to wear a brace for a few weeks afterward. If there's no swelling, bleeding, or pain, you can come back next week for a follow-up. Is there anything else we should be careful about? I asked him anxiously. Be careful not to press on it while sleeping. Come in for regular checkups. Other than that, there's nothing else. I nodded. After the checkup, I took Linger to get a follow-up shot. Seeing Jiu Wanyu at the hospital, skilled and moving around with Linger, I felt a strange emotion rise in my chest. After leaving the hospital, I received a call from my parents. I hung up the call, fastened my seatbelt, and said, Mom and Dad made lunch. If you're not too busy, let's go back for a meal. Jiu Wanyu responded softly. She turned at the next intersection, at the Zhao family home, hearing the doorbell. Zhaozhen, wearing an apron and holding a spatula, rushed to the door. Bai Hui gave him a side-eye. What's the rush? When I opened the door, Linger was in my arms. Seeing us, their eyes squinted with joy. Oh dear. What did the doctor say? Bai Hui took Linger from me. Nothing much. She's recovering well. I shut the door behind me. Smells amazing. Dad, did you make braised pork? I walked to the kitchen. Only then did Zhaozhen remember the soup on the stove. Sweetheart, Grandpa's done cooking. Let's eat. I made pork bone soup just for Linger. I washed my hands, grabbed a piece of braised pork from the plate, and stuffed it in my mouth. It was so hot I had to roll it around in my mouth. Still, I gave my dad a thumbs up. As delicious as ever. Slow down, Dad said disdainfully, watching me devour it straight from the pot. Then he wrapped a chicken drumstick in a napkin and handed it to me. This one's not hot. Thanks, Dad. I casually picked up another piece of braised pork and popped it into my mouth, then left the kitchen, fully satisfied. Zhaozhen chuckled softly, eyes full of amusement, no sense of decorum. I sat down next to Linger, tearing chicken meat for her. My mouth was still hissing from the heat. Bai Hui rolled her eyes at me. This silly child. It just came out of the pot. It was so hot I couldn't speak. Serves you right. Bai Hui looked down at the little pig plush in Linger's hands. Who gave her this? Though phrased as a question, her eyes were fixed on me. I stiffly replied, it was me. Bai Hui said no more. She looked down at the messy Linger in her arms. Sweetheart, were you scared at the hospital today? Linger shook her head. I smiled with my eyes. Linger was amazing. She didn't cry during the shot. Bai Hui wiped her greasy little face. Linger is so brave. Unlike your dad. When he was little, he hid under the bed to avoid shots. I looked at my mom with disapproval. Zhaozhen served a small bowl of soup, then coaxed him out with a candy. Just one candy. After the shot, he even said he wanted to sever ties with me. He ran away from home, sat by the flower bed downstairs and refused to come back up. Bai Hui's eyes were full of memories. It was the neighbor's older sister who finally coaxed him back, probably because she was pretty. Those childhood crushes. My face flushed red. I instinctively turned my head and looked toward Bulma, who had been silent on the sofa, only to find her looking right at me with a smile that wasn't a smile. Let's eat. Didn't you say we were eating? My ears turned red. I tossed the bone into the trash can and quickly stood up to help bring dishes from the kitchen. At the dining table, Linger was being coaxed to eat by Zhaozhen and by Hui. I scooped a bowl of bone broth. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the person next to me. This is for you. As I spoke, I placed the bowl of soup in front of her. Maybe I wasn't holding it steady. When I reached over with my left hand, I lost grip. The bowl tilted to the side, and the soup spilled all over Jiu Wanyu. The soup had just come off the stove. Inside the house, Jiu Wanyu was only wearing a thin shirt. She instinctively stood up. Are you okay? I quickly put down the hot bowl, grabbed a napkin from the side to wipe her off. Bai Hui frowned. Why are you so clumsy? Wanyu, go upstairs and change clothes. I'll bring some burn cream later. It's okay, really. Jiu Wanyu got up and headed toward my bedroom upstairs. Inside the room, Jiu Wanyu had just started unbuttoning her shirt when the door suddenly opened from outside. I pushed the door open and saw the scene before me. The woman's shirt was half off, revealing pale, cool-toned skin. Her fair and full chest couldn't be hidden. I was stunned, entranced by the beauty in front of me undressing. I brought your clothes. I finally snapped out of it, quickly turned around, and reached my hand behind me, passing the clothes to her. Here's a new one, put this on first. Thanks. Jiu Wanyu took the clothes from my hand. I pulled my hand back, walked to the door, and closed it. Go ahead and change. I won't look. I'm facing the sun. I held an ice pack and the burn ointment and explained. Once you're done changing, I'll apply the ointment, it's over there. I'll do it myself. Nope. I withdrew my hand. You hurt someone. You take responsibility. Behind me, the soft rustling of dressing done. I turned around. The shirt she wore was one size too big. It looked loose and baggy on her, but she looked good in anything. I calmly squatted down in front of her. Sit on the bed. Lift it up. Jiu Wanyu lifted the hem. Sure enough, it was red from the burn. I sighed inwardly. Wow, I really made a mess of this. Wait, I hadn't even started eating yet. Are you advertising on my burn now? I came back to my senses. I smiled at her awkwardly, reached out and touched it. It felt really nice. Does it hurt here? The woman paused. She looked at me with a teasing smile. As long as it doesn't hurt. My mom said if it does, we need to go to the hospital. I explained seriously, still applying medicine without pausing, so there's no scar. As I spoke, I pressed the ice pack on again. I'll apply the ointment later. Although it wasn't proper, my eyes just couldn't help drifting toward her waistline. Jiu Wanyu noticed me staring at her waist, as if I were about to drool. Her usually calm voice wavered. Not done yet. That snapped me back. I removed the ice pack. All right. I grabbed a cotton swab and applied the ointment. A bit embarrassed. Sorry about that. I'm just clumsy. Jiu Wanyu silently looked at me for a long moment. It's fine. After finishing the ointment, we came downstairs. Bai Hui turned around and asked, how is it? It's fine, just a little red. I pulled out a chair and sat down. There was a bowl of soup in front of both me and Jiu Wanyu. After lunch, Jiu Wanyu went to the office. Linger wasn't going to kindergarten today either. I didn't know how long I could stay here, but I hoped that during this uncertain time, I could at least be with Linger. But in the Zhao household, there was hardly a chance for me to be. The two of them kept taking turns, coming in and out with different tricks. This time, they practically restocked everything we needed. I lay on the couch playing with my phone, but I kept feeling the pairs of eyes glancing at me. The moment I looked up, they both looked away. I lay there with the phone resting on my chest, tilting my head toward the carpet. If you've got something to say, just say it. Bai Hui pulled the blocks from Linger's hands, picked her up and said, come, sweetheart, Grandma bought you a new dress last time. Let's go try it on, she said, carrying her upstairs. Zhaozhen came over and sat next to me. Yichen, what are you and Wanyu planning? I yawned and asked, what do you mean? What plan? Yichen, people have feelings, you know. All these years, we've seen everything Wanyu has done. I don't know, maybe she hasn't been there for you enough. Son, when you were little, your father also wanted to be with you and your mom every single moment, but I also wanted to give you both the best life. Those two things are hard to balance. I'm not taking her side. If she ever had the slightest ill intent, I would never say a word on her behalf. It was rare for me to patiently listen to Dad ramble. Zhaozhen talked, and I didn't feel impatient at all. He continued, "No one can stop you from going after someone better. But I hope you'll think it through." I gave him a reassuring look. "Got it, don't worry, Dad. I won't be reckless anymore." I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. I've always been a bit younger than my peers. I was only 17 when I started college. Zhaozhen shook his head helplessly. "You and your mood swings. I need to start carrying heart meds." I burst out laughing. "Old Zhao. Do you know what the most important thing is right now?" "What?" I looked toward the yellow cherries in the fridge. "Let me have a few of those." Zhaozhen shook his head and sighed, then got up to wash them for me. Footsteps came from upstairs. Baihui came down holding Linger. I was already munching on big cherries. Linger had changed into a new dress, a pink top, with a white puffy skirt like a flower bud. Her hair was parted on both sides and tied into 2 braids, each hanging over a shoulder, with a light yellow star hairpin clipped on. My heart overflowed with fatherly love. "Baby, you look like a little cream cupcake." Linger looked a little shy, but her smile was so sweet. Her big eyes were exactly like Jiyu Wanyu's. Long lashes fluttered like butterfly wings. Baihui and I exchanged a glance. "You greedy little guy," I hummed lightly, and waved Linger over. Linger came, and Baihui put her down. She walked over with her little legs. As soon as she got close, I scooped her up into my arms, gave her chubby pink cheeks a kiss, and fed her a cherry. She just ate lunch. "Don't give her too much." "Got it." Zhaozhen came out in a fresh set of clothes. He reached out to pick Linger up. "Let's go." "Go where?" I asked. Baihui leaned against the couch. "A few days ago, old Li downstairs pissed me off. Today, I'm taking Linger to show off. I've sharpened my tongue." "All right then." I stretched lazily and headed upstairs to the bedroom. Since turning 24, I had only entered the room earlier to give Jiyu Wanyu medicine. Didn't expect Jiyu Wanyu to have such a great figure. "Hey," I shook my head. "Why is that still in my head?" I pushed open the door. My bedroom hadn't changed much. Just some different things in it now. There was a small drawer in the corner of the desk. Beside it was a photo frame. It was a group photo. In the photo, I was smiling ear to ear, radiating pure happiness. Kezan was in a groomsman's suit. Jiyu Wanyu's lips had a faint smile. Her eyes were full of warmth. Zhaofu was smiling at the camera. So was Baihui. The background of the photo was very luxurious, with bright lighting. I put down the photo and opened the cabinet below. One side was filled with cameras. The other had an album inside. When I opened it, it was all my photography works. At first, they were just landscapes. Then, a blurry figure appeared. Later, that blurry figure became a clear image of Jiyu Wanyu in casual wear, leaning on a railing by the river. It was an overcast day in the photo. It seemed like the wind was blowing. The breeze lifted her dress by the river. The girl's hair was lifted by the wind too. It looked full of story and emotion. Then came all sorts of photos of Jiyu Wanyu. Flipping further must have been after they got together. They were taken by the artificial lake behind the university. This photo album documented Jiyu Wanyu, from casual attire to a professional look, from a youthful girl to a composed businesswoman. But the one thing that never changed was the way she looked at me. Her eyes were full of gentle love, like they could only hold me. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my head. I put the album down, rubbed my temples, waited for the pain to pass. Only then did I let out a heavy breath. What was that? Why did it suddenly start hurting out of nowhere? Could it be that? Too bad. I've never had the habit of writing a diary since I was a kid. Your bedroom door was knocked on. Coming. I put the album back where it belonged. What is it, Mom? Your phone's ringing. It's Kezan. Baihui looked at me like she wanted to say more. I didn't think much of it. Picked up the phone and answered. What's up? I said. I didn't know what he said, but my expression changed. All right. I'm coming right now. I hung up the phone, grabbed a DSLR camera from the cabinet. Mom, I'm heading out for a bit. I won't be back till late tonight. When I got to the stairs, Baihui looked at me again. You and Kezan, didn't you stop contacting each other a long time ago? We're doing fine. Anyway, Kezan's looking for me. I'm heading out. Zhaozhen showed off Linger for a bit downstairs. That pink, soft glutinous rice ball quickly became the center of attention. Zhaozhen just waved it off casually. It's just a granddaughter. Why are you all acting like you've never seen one? Let me hold her. I looked at the old man beside me. He reached out no good. Linger is still not used to others. She only likes Grandpa. Isn't that right? Zhaozhen jiggled Linger in his arms. Linger hugged Grandpa's neck sweetly and rubbed her face against his. Ah, girls are just the best. Look at that, melts my heart, Dad. I showed up at the wrong time. What's up? Zhaozhen turned around when he heard me. I'm heading out. I'll pick up Linger later. I squeezed Linger's little hand. Got it, got it. Zhaozhen waved me off. Linger's smiling lips drooped slightly. Her big round eyes looked at me. I'll come back for you later, okay? I shook her little hand. Linger hesitated, then finally nodded. Only then did I let go. Zhaozhen patted her back to comfort her. Look, what's that? Is that a little puppy? He glanced down at his arms. But Linger kept watching where I was going. I walked a few steps away, then turned around as if sensing something. Linger was still looking in my direction, her eyes wide and round. They looked misty. No matter how Zhaozhen tried to coax her, she wouldn't look away. Just kept staring at me. My heart felt like it was stabbed. I walked back over. Baby, do you want to come with me? This time, Linger didn't hesitate. She nodded. I opened my arms. Come on. Linger smiled and dove into my arms. Zhaozhen looked a bit upset. He didn't want to let go. Leaving already? Linger turned and gave Grandpa a kiss on the cheek. Zhaozhen lovingly pinched her little face. Such a good girl. I held her and said goodbye to Grandpa. Linger waved to them happily and contentedly. Poor boy, bring Linger back more often. Got it, Grandpa Meng. I lifted Linger up higher. Linger, do you like me? Linger wrapped both arms around my neck, swaying happily, her little legs kicking. Her eyes sparkled as she nodded. I like you too. Maybe it's my fatherly bias, but I think Linger is the cutest child in the world. If you want to come with me, just tell me. Or tug my hand. That's enough. Then I'll take you wherever I go, okay? Linger nodded. She visibly brightened with joy and started getting close to me on her own. We took a cab to the filming location and got out. I held Linger's hand and found Kejun's set. The atmosphere on set didn't seem great. It was quiet. No one was talking. Only when they heard movement at the door did they look up. I've been here before and got along well with everyone. Seeing me holding a pink, chubby-cheeked little dumpling, Kejun's assistant ran up. Chunjae. Who's this? My daughter. The one I told you about last time. Cute, right? The assistant grinned. So adorable. Come here, sweetheart. Let Uncle kiss your cheek. Linger quickly covered her face and hid behind me. Kejun also walked over. Don't scare her. He crouched in front of Linger. You remember me, sweetheart? Linger peeked her head out to look at him, then nodded at Kejun. Come to Godfather. Linger trotted into Kejun's arms. The assistant watched enviously. What a beautiful baby. I sat down with them. What's going on? The assistant lowered their voice and explained briefly. Basically, the lead actor is backed by investors and has only marketed his looks. But last time, netizens exposed him. He trended with the scandalous blackface rumor. There was already a lot of controversy over the casting. Then this drama happened again. Even though it was quickly taken down, the male lead still had a mental breakdown. He's been out of it all day. He even asked to take a break from filming. His studio originally wanted to respond to netizens with footage, but they didn't want it to look too staged. They couldn't get David last minute, so they had to ask me, blaming everything except their own skills. I was a bit speechless. The assistant shushed me. Chunjae. You don't know how arrogant Mr. Liang is. He never focuses on the script on set, never studies it. His assistant keeps watch on the director's angles, and if even one isn't flattering, the whole take has to be redone. Who's backing him? So overbearing. Kejun's expression turned serious. Before the assistant could reply, he said, Yichin, take a few shots first. If he's got such powerful backers, why not hire top-tier teams for him? I adjusted the camera in my hand. His assistant said top teams are too flashy. They want a more candid aesthetic. Oh, I get it. Have the cake and eat it too. The assistant sighed helplessly. The director got up to go negotiate with them. I wandered around nearby with my camera, just in time to meet a contemptuous gaze from that side. I aimed my lens at Kezin. Kezin, Linger, look over here. Linger looked at me, facing the camera, mouth stuffed with candy, and her little hand trying to form a gesture, a peace sign. Kezin smiled gently and reached out to adjust her. The camera froze on that moment. Kezhin's fox-like eyes were captivating, his gaze soft and tender, through my lens. Kezin looked warm yet powerful. His whole being radiated a gentle glow. Linger earnestly watched Kezin help her with the peace sign. One of her little hands sneakily made a V underneath. The assistant wasn't having much luck. The other party seemed to think I didn't look reliable. They didn't want to waste time. Kezin said to Mr. Liang, instead of falling into the trap of self-justification, why not focus on improving your own substance? Use your own ability to fight back against the online criticism. Liang Mai gave him a lazy glance. Are you saying you want to burden Sister Jiang with these trivial matters and increase her workload? Kezin took a deep breath. What does that have to do with me? Improving yourself and easing her burden aren't mutually exclusive. Liang Mai smirked. Of course they're not. But having blind favoritism does make me act fearlessly. She then gave Kezin a provocative look. You wouldn't understand, of course. The tension between the two left the entire set in complete silence. I noticed Kezhin's face turning a little pale, so I put away my camera. Mr. Liang, I've taken a lot of pictures, but you're the first male celeb I've ever had to find the right angle for, just to get a good shot. I smiled wide, putting on my most harmless expression. After all, before meeting you, I thought all male celebs looked flawless from every angle. Don't you think so? Liang Mai's face darkened instantly. Where did they even find such a third-rate photographer like you? Kezin looked at me coldly. Third-rate, Yichen, was invited by Mr. Like himself to participate in a photography exhibition a few years ago. Are you saying Mr. Like is third-rate, or that his taste is? The assistant quickly came out to mediate. Okay, since that's the case, let's shoot. Mai, go get your makeup done. Let's try to release the photos by tonight. After she left, I muttered, what kind of powerful background is that? Kezhin's family has a strong background too, but they keep a low profile. Still, for others, that's too much. How come Liang Mai doesn't even recognize you? Forget him, Yichen. Thanks for your hard work. No need to say that between us. I pouted. Mr. Like really did praise me. You mean the famous Like Thatcher? Kezin nodded. So, I used to be a photographer? Yes, but later you became Lu Yui's company secretary. After that, I'm not so sure anymore. While they were putting on makeup, I logged into my Weibo account. It's verified as a photography blogger. I had 30,000 followers. My homepage showed my portfolio. In the private section of my post, there were many photos of Jiu Wanyu. Some were selfies together. I looked into the lens. Jiu Wanyu was looking at me. There were also photos of Linger lying in a baby crib. One showed Jiu Wanyu in graduation robes, holding the baby. A word popped into my head, wedding. My head throbbed. Kezin looked at me worriedly. What's wrong, Yichen? It's nothing. I waved after the pain passed. Maybe I didn't rest well. Should we do this another day? No way. I gestured toward the makeup station. Who knows how much drama he'll cause. It won't take long to shoot. Kezin looked a bit concerned. I patted him. Really, I'm fine. Worst case, when you're free, take me for barbecue in University Town. Tell me if you feelin' well. The shoot went pretty smoothly. I found a few good angles and sent the previews back to their studio. The assistant saw the negatives. One showed Linger and Kezin. A peaceful, tranquil vibe. Even Kezhin's usually sly face looked soft and gentle. Mr. Zhao, if every photo you took was at this level, we just used the raw images, the assistant exclaimed. I packed up my camera. I can guarantee consistent quality. Can you give me a face that's also raw image ready? Mr. Zhao, please mind your words. The assistant glanced over. Liang Mai looked calm, as if he hadn't heard anything. As I sent the photos over, I added, I'll say the same thing to you. There's always someone better out there. Don't be a frog at the bottom of a well. Don't think your world is the whole world. Alright. I lifted my camera and walked over to Kezan. The assistant didn't have time to process my words. Before he got called away, Kezan got busy again. Not long after, I took Linger and left. The assistant really liked Linger, hugging and kissing her several times. There were shared bikes all along the street. Linger tugged on my hand. What is it? Linger pointed at an electric scooter under a tree nearby. You want to ride that? Linger nodded with her little face. Then how about we DIY our own scooter, okay? Linger frowned, she didn't understand. I scanned a scooter, held Linger, and got on. Off we go. Whenever there was less traffic, I sped up. Linger opened her mouth into the wind, her fur little braids flying behind her. Liang Mai's assistant happened to come out and saw us riding away on a scooter. She scoffed in disdain, totally washed up, then shook her head in pity. What a waste of a good-looking face. We stopped at an electric scooter shop. As soon as we entered, a staff member came over. They introduced the store's newest models. I'm not good at buying these, so I chose a well-known brand. Linger, which one do you like? I squatted in front of her. Linger clutched her piggy plush as I picked her up. Her eyes lit up. She pointed to a corner. I followed her gaze. It was a large scooter, shaped like a white Backham bear. Then we'll take that one. All right, sir. They installed a child seat in the store. The store manager even gave us matching helmets. One big and one small. Linger even chose a black and pink one. The manager thought she was cute and gave us an extra. I rode around the Riverside Park once. The sun was about to set. The sunset reflected off the river in shimmering golden waves. Linger was dressed like a little princess, swinging her legs in the front seat. The Backham bear scooter became my mount. I bought helium balloons and tied them to the back seat. From afar, they looked like bodyguards. There were vendors along the roadside. Colorfully painted plaster dolls were on display. I parked the scooter to the side, held Linger's hand and walked over. Which one do you like, Linger? Linger pointed at the pure white little princess doll. The vendor brought over a small stool and we sat down. All right, now let's dress her in pretty clothes. I dipped the brush in color. This kind of activity easily calmed Linger down. She handed me the piggy plush and focused on painting. No idea who she takes after. Linger seemed to have OCD. A slight smudge and she'd frown. After wiping it clean, she'd color even more carefully. Such focus she doesn't even spill paint. The boy next to us sighed. He doesn't splatter paint everywhere. Unlike my kid, his clothes and hands are covered. Our baby has a thing for cleanliness. The man praised us. How did you raise him to be so good? I smiled. I'm his dad. The man looked shocked. You look so young, can't believe your kid's this big. I nodded awkwardly. Hard to believe, right? Why do you look like a little raccoon again? A woman came up behind him. The man turned joyfully. Wife, I booked your favorite restaurant. Let's head there directly. Happily holding her close, he waved to me. Goodbye. I waved at him. The corners of my lips curled up too. I looked down at Linger. She was holding her paintbrush, not moving. Her eyes stared blankly at the family of three disappearing into the distance. No idea what she was thinking about. We had dinner outside. It was already dark when we got home. I coaxed Linger to sleep. Back in the bedroom, I opened the notebook on the desk. The first few pages had a lot written. Things like don't do anything excessive to Kezan and Linger. I put the pen down, rubbed my sore neck, and collapsed onto the bed. As my phone vibrated, a pleasant ringtone started to ring. Caller ID, Ji Wanyu. Why would Ji Wanyu call this late? I grudgingly hit answer. But it wasn't Ji Wanyu's voice on the other end. Hello? Mr. Zhao, it's me, Sushi Han. We met last time. I remember. It's late, what's the matter? I glanced at it. It was definitely Ji Wanyu's number. An hour later, I pulled up in front of a luxury building, riding the little electric scooter I'd just bought. Through the glass doors, two suited gentlemen were politely opening car doors for guests. I called and waited nearby. Before long, two elegant figures walked out. Ji Wanyu seemed to be drunk. Her eyes were dazed, and her pale face was flushed red. Her steps were unsteady. Ju Shihan followed behind and waved at me. I put my phone away. Sorry to bother you this late. Su Shihan smiled at me, but showed no sign of apology. I had seen Su Shihan once at the banquet. Unlike Ji Wanyu's cold demeanor, she gave off a warm, spring breeze-like feeling. It's nothing, Su Shihan said as she looked behind me. Do you need a ride home? No, I pointed to the small vehicle behind me. I came by scooter. Su Shihan raised an eyebrow. It's late. Let me trouble the driver anyway. He can help her sober up a bit too. Su Shihan maintained her elegant smile. Mr. Zhao, you're quite thoughtful. Hearing the sarcasm in her words, I wasn't annoyed. All good, I replied. Su Shihan laughed. Her eyes carried scrutiny. I thought you wouldn't show up tonight. I said frankly, you're pretty bold. You knew about our marriage and still asked me to pick her up. Not afraid I'd leave her on the street. Su Xian's smile disappeared. It was Wan Yu who asked me to call you. I was slightly stunned. I'll leave her to you. Then, I've got something else. See you. Su Shihan glanced at her watch. I nodded to her, watching her walk to a luxury car. The driver opened the door for her. I sighed slightly. I walked up to Ji Wanyu, lowering my head to look at her. Ji Wanyu looked up. She was leaning against the street lamp, rubbing her aching temple with one hand. Hearing me, she glanced sideways. Zhao Yichen. Hurry, it's cold. Ji Wanyu's face was flushed with mini coolness, her breath reeking of alcohol. I had to put the helmet on her myself. Ji Wanyu seemed dazed, staring blankly at my actions. Why did you come? You drank too much. I came to take you home. I let go of her and put mine on myself. I'm not that drunk. Ji Wanyu pressed her lips together. I held her. Can you walk steadily? Apparently not. Ji Wanyu leaned her body against mine. I pulled her hand over and wrapped it around my waist. Do you still care about me? Ji Wanyu's soft body pressed down on me, gently wrapping around my waist. I do. Stop moving. Ji Wanyu buried her face against my back. Do you really still care about me? Her voice was so soft it floated off with the wind. All I could hear was the whooshing of the wind. Drunk Ji Wanyu was a chatterbox. She talked the whole way. Her breath was warm against my back. I couldn't catch what she was saying. The early summer night was a bit chilly. The scooter wasn't moving very fast. Back at the villa, I took off my helmet and poked her cheek. Ji Wanyu, are you asleep? The person behind stirred and opened her eyes, a bit dazed. She quickly regained clarity. I helped her remove her helmet. We're home. Only then did Ji Wanyu get up. Her steps faltered. I placed the things in the garage cabinet and jogged to catch up. Can she walk steadily? I instinctively reached out to support her, but she brushed me off. I reached into empty air. Looks like the scooter ride sobered her up. I followed her into the elevator. The scent of alcohol filled the small space. I carefully observed the elegant woman before me. Once the door opened, Ji Wanyu shrugged off her coat and hung it at the entrance. Her steps were slightly unsteady as she headed upstairs. I watched her back disappear up the stairs and stood there for a moment. Then I went to the kitchen and found some honey. Made her a cup of honey water. I knocked on the door. There was no sound from inside for a long time. Ji Wanyu, I pressed my ear against the door. I'm coming in. I pushed the door open. The room was pitch black. By the moonlight through the window, I could make out the silhouette on the sofa. I turned on the wall light. Everything I did next felt like I'd done it 100 times before. I expertly helped her to the bed, fed her some honey water, and went to the bathroom to wring out a towel. Ji Wanyu slept restlessly. Even in her sleep, her brows didn't relax. She grabbed onto me. The woman buried her face in my chest. Her breath was warm against my skin. I frowned. Ji Wanyu's voice was soft and low. Do you not want me anymore? Do you like someone else? She muttered, almost incoherent. She calmly hugged me and said, You were right. No one wants me. I'm just a product of a business marriage. They all think I was an accident. If there weren't any benefits involved, I wouldn't even exist. But her tone couldn't hide the sorrow. Only I could feel she was trembling. If you love me, you shouldn't change. How can you change? You promised me on our wedding day. You said you'd love me forever. I'm sorry. Can we not get divorced? Can you please not fall for someone else? Ji Won-yu's parents had a business marriage. Her mother longed for freedom, and her father was a playboy. She was just the result of a moment of passion. After her parents started new families, she always seemed like the extra one. I frowned and held her tightly. I won't divorce you. Ji Won-yu sighed softly. But you're the one who said you wanted to be with me, she whispered in complaint. Like a fragile little animal curled in my arms. In the end, no words could overpower the haze of alcohol. Ji Won-yu fell asleep, nestled in my chest. Every time I moved, the arm around my waist tightened a little. We fell asleep in each other's arms. I thought I'd have insomnia sharing a bed suddenly, but I fell asleep quickly. The sky lightened with dawn. The trees in the courtyard rustled gently in the breeze. Fragrance of flowers mixed with birdsong. The woman's brows on the big bed twitched. She opened her eyes and instinctively lifted her head. The person before her held her in his arms. His long eyelashes cast small shadows. There wasn't a flaw on his handsome face. Ji Won-yu stared blankly. She reached out and touched me. I muttered in my sleep. Half awake, I opened my eyes and glanced at her. I pulled down the hand on my face and went back to sleep. Suddenly, I opened my eyes wide. My gaze met Ji Won-yu's. My eyes drifted downward. Ji Won-yu's shirt was unbuttoned, exposing her fair, rounded skin to the air. I blushed. The sound of me swallowing was loud in the room. You were drunk last night. Ji Won-yu returned to that saint-like cold expression. Sorry, she said, getting out of bed. Ji Won-yu. I suddenly sat up and pulled her shirt. All the buttons had come undone. With a gentle tug, it slid off her shoulders. Her bare shoulder and neck were so smooth and fair, my eyes couldn't look away. Ji Won-yu turned around, a complicated look in her eyes. I softly asked, do you still like me? We both froze when I said it. I thought the Ji Won-yu of 6 years later successful wouldn't resist temptation, would grow tired of this love from school uniforms to wedding gowns, but apparently not. I won't divorce you. What I mean is, if you still like me, can I chase you again? Ji Won-yu stared at me for a moment. What's that supposed to mean? Slap me, then give me a candy? Or do you find messing with me amusing? I froze. She turned to leave, buttoning her shirt. I rushed forward and grabbed her wrist. There was no slap. I'll only give you sweet dates, okay? I'll chase you again. Ji Won-yu pressed her lips together and coldly muttered, up to you. She shook off my hand and went into the bathroom. I watched the bathroom door close and leaned back on the bed. Clearly, she was disappointed in me. She didn't even bother to ask why I changed so much. I sighed lightly. What a mess this is. Just confessed and succeeded. Now I have to pursue her again. Ji Won-yu came out dressed and ready. She saw Linger still curled up in my lap reading a picture book. As she buttoned her cuffs, she said, Linger, Mommy will take you to change clothes. It's time for kindergarten. Linger puffed out her cheeks. She crawled off the sofa with a pout. I pulled Linger into my arms. Linger is still so little. How about letting her start kindergarten next semester? The other kids are older than her. She can't really play with them. And she doesn't talk yet. She seems to like playing quietly alone in the corner. I'll be very busy the next 2 months. I won't have time to take care of her. I'll feel more at ease if she's in kindergarten. Linger's summer break starts in 2 months. Won-yu is trying to push all her work into these next 2 months, so that Linger won't have to spend his whole summer break alone. I spoke up. I'll take care of her. I'll stay with her. Ji Won-yu looked up. Her dark eyes stared straight at me. How long do you plan to stay? Or rather, how long until your patience runs out? I froze. Then don't give her hope at all. Don't give it to her only to cruelly take it away later. Ji Won-yu raised her eyes to look at me. Her expression calm, completely unbothered. Zhao Yichen, don't you think that's a little cruel? To both Linger and me. It felt like my heart had been gouged. The wound ached dully. Even I don't know how long I'll be staying here. I just want to use this uncertain time to make up for the fatherly love Linger missed. But I never thought about, what if one day I wake up and everything goes back to how it was? Linger would grow attached to the abstract version of me at 24. Then she would surely be hurt again. Linger didn't understand what we were arguing about. She looked up, glancing back and forth between us. Ji Wanyu ultimately couldn't bear it. When Linger's hand fully recovers, I'll send her to school. Until the sound of the front door closing echoed. Linger ran to the door with her tiny legs. But the door was already closed. Linger pouted. She patted the door with her little hands. That's when I came back to my senses. I walked to the entrance and picked Linger up. What's wrong? Mommy went to work. Linger hung her head low. She tugged at her little pajamas. I held her and walked to the sofa. Mommy didn't leave without you. How about you stay home and play with Daddy today? Linger's eyes lit up. She looked up at me. I tapped her little nose. We'll bring Mommy lunch this afternoon, okay? Linger nodded hard. She snuggled up to me. I was overwhelmed by her cuteness. I pinched her chubby cheeks. In the garage, Ji Wanyu opened the car door. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw something white. She paused, then walked further in. Among rows of luxury cars sat a little electric scooter. Not sure what she thought of, but a gleam passed through Ji Wanyu's eyes. At noon, sunlight filtered through the leaves and scattered on the ground, creating patches of dappled light and shadow. A cartoon-themed electric scooter stopped in front of a towering building. I held Linger's hand and carried a lunch container into the office tower. The receptionist saw us and greeted us warmly. Mr. President, are you here to see President Jiu? I nodded. Is she in? I came without giving notice. She's in. The receptionist gestured politely. The president is in a meeting. I'll have her assistant come down for you. No need. I'll just go up myself. I pressed the elevator button with Linger. As the elevator doors closed, a few people with sandwiches gathered at the front desk. The president hasn't been here in a while. Yeah. The elevator stopped. The elevator doors opened. I stepped out with Linger. But right then, a group of people exited from the other elevator. Ji Wanyu was attentively listening to someone's report. She looked tall and elegant, with long legs and a serious expression. Next to her was a professional-looking man, exuding a capable aura. That was Zhou Jiming. Suddenly, his gaze wandered and met mine across the space. Zhao Yichin. He smiled at me. Long time no see. I came to my senses and smiled in greeting. Yeah, it's really been a while. Zhou Jiming noticed the child I was holding. Linger, do you still remember me? Linger held onto my hand, tilting her head and smiling at him. That got to me. Ji Wanyu looked at the lunchbox in my hand. Why are you here? I raised the food container to bring you lunch. You're busy, so I'll take Linger and go. Ji Wanyu called me back. I'm not busy. I was just about to have lunch. The business partners around her exchanged looks, reading the room instantly, with 800 fake excuses a second. Well, since President Jiu personally received lunch, we'll reschedule. Yes. Looking forward to working together. Any day works. I'll host next time. Then we won't keep President Jiu from lunch. They said goodbye politely. The group then entered the elevator. Zhou Jiming looked back at me from the crowd. My gaze happened to meet his. I nodded and smiled at him. Let's go, Ji Wanyu said, taking the lunch from my hand. In the office, I opened the lunch boxes. The aroma of food filled the room. It stirred up our appetites. I handed her a pair of chopsticks. Here, eat. Ji Wanyu pursed her lips and took them. Thanks. Linger handed her a wet wipe. Thanks, Linger. She picked up a rib and fed it to her. She glanced at me. Did you already eat? Linger pushed her hand away and nodded. Only then did she begin to eat slowly. I met Zhou Jiming while on a business trip abroad with Linger. I froze a bit, then realized she was speaking to me. Ji Wanyu's gaze shifted slightly. He's the head of Asia Pacific at Private Asia. We're working together. Then she suddenly stopped and gave a self-deprecating smile. You probably don't care where I've been awkwardly going. If you say it, I'll know. So I do care. Actually, I did mind just a little bit. Back in high school, I even shipped our CP. Pretending not to care was fake, but this life is different from before. Maybe I've read too many novels and got brainwashed. But ever since I returned home, I've felt like everything that belonged to me, I have to take it back. And in reality, you've scored full marks, didn't I say? I want to pursue you, so I have to trust you completely. Ji Wanyu pressed her lips together and looked deeply at me. Why does she look a bit upset? I awkwardly changed the subject. Is it good? Ji-won, you nodded. Am I bothering you by coming here? I glanced at the door. You seem pretty busy. I suddenly remembered what those people said earlier. Free every day. Does that mean if I hadn't come today, Ji-won, you would have had a lunch date? No. If I'm going to pursue her, I can't bring her unnecessary trouble. I've got to be careful about that. I also shouldn't disrupt your original plans, let alone become a hindrance to your work. I glanced at her. How about I pick you up after work? I frowned in slight frustration. Can the scooter even fit 3 people? Forget it. How about we go on a date this weekend if you're free? Ji-won Yu's brow twitched. She let out a laugh of frustration. You've said everything already. What else is there for me to say? She suddenly lost her appetite. Ji-won Yu suddenly picked up Linger from the sofa. There's a room inside. You and Linger can nap in there. Sigh. Why is she upset again? In the office lounge, I reached the ending of the 3rd bedtime story. I looked down at the little bundle in my arms. Linger was grinning so wide it almost reached her ears. Her long lashes trembled nonstop. What's wrong? I pinched her chubby little face. Why aren't you sleeping? Linger quietly raised her chubby little hand and touched her nose, then peeked at me with one eye open. After all that, she sneakily opened one eye to look at me. I couldn't help but chuckle. Such a silly little thing. Fine, no nap then. How about I take you out for some fun? Linger instantly opened her bright, sparkling eyes. Grumpy Ji-won Yu, lying nearby, opened her eyes. No way, kids have to take afternoon naps. But she can't fall asleep. I poked her cheek. Why do kids have to nap? Dr. Song said so. Ji-won Yu propped her head on one hand, sounding a little stiff. Linger, do you want to see Uncle Song? Uncle Song is the family doctor who manages Linger's nutrition. Doctors are like nightmares to kids, especially after shots. Linger tries to be strong for Dad, even when she's hurting from the injection, so she won't worry. Sure enough, Linger shook her head in fear. Don't scare her. I held Linger in my arms. Linger pouted and buried her face in my chest. Ji-won Yu pressed her lips together. I didn't scare her. Linger has a vaccination scheduled for tomorrow. Ji-won Yu looked serious. When I was a kid, even when my dad called the doctor, he had to do it behind my back. One time I overheard him. That night I dragged an empty suitcase and ran away from home. Ji-won Yu turned to look at me, waiting for what I'd say next. She knows what you're talking about. I added. It's a terrifying thing for a child. There's nothing wrong with knowing ahead of time. At least they won't be too shocked when it actually happens. You can't use adult logic to talk to a child. I disagreed calmly. Knowing ahead of time only leads to earlier fear. When the time comes, all they'll do is cry, but not everything can be solved by crying. It's just a shot. To Linger, it's not just a shot. Do you want to forecast every bump in Linger's growth? Do you really want to prepare for every misstep? I was at a loss. But Ji-won Yu, I still turned out fine. Ji-won Yu didn't say anything more. She just looked at me deeply, then let out a faint sigh and turned away. Her fingertips brushed something soft. She looked down at Linger. Linger reached out with her little hand and gently held her finger. Looking up, she could only see the back of Linger's round little head. She softly squeezed and closed her eyes. She had enough power to make Linger's life smooth. But that was only in terms of money and material needs. Within her understanding of the world, she could give Linger all her love, and if possible, she would hope Linger could grow up to be like me in character. But who can guarantee that? Is everything in front of me just an illusion? That feeling of being lifted high up, only to be thrown down hard from above. She never wanted Linger to go through that in her life. The afternoon sun lazily shone on the ground. The temperature was a bit high. Ji-won Yu carried Linger out of the elevator and walked us to the main entrance. Let's go. I held Linger's hand. Oh right, I forgot the lunchbox. I thought for a moment. Forget it. We probably won't need it. Just remember to bring it back for me. Are you and Linger not coming tomorrow? I said. Isn't Linger going to kindergarten tomorrow? Ji-won Yu let out a frustrated laugh. You really are just a flash in the pan. Then she added, telling the assistant beside her, tomorrow at noon. Same as before. Have that hotel deliver lunch to the office. The assistant was briefly stunned. Yes, boss. I pursed my lips. How about I bring it to you instead? Casually, through the floor-to-ceiling windows, on the street, people passed by in a hurry. The cafe was filled with the scent of freshly ground coffee, blending with the gentle background music. At a seat by the window, a casually dressed woman in a baseball cap enjoyed the quiet afternoon. The glass door was pushed open. Looking up, the woman glanced at her watch. She raised an eyebrow, perfect timing. I walked straight toward the window seat. Hello, Mr. Zhao. The woman gestured for me to sit. When she saw the child I was holding, she paused for a moment. But then, with good professionalism, she quickly composed herself. Sorry, my daughter is still little. I feel more at ease keeping her close. No problem. I understand. The woman smiled. You don't look that old. Yet your child is already so big. I smiled faintly, but said nothing. I've seen your work before. Your capability is beyond question. The woman wore a formulaic smile. Seeing that I got straight to the point, she cut to the chase as well. Mind telling me more about the shoot? Is the client a major celebrity or a trending actress? Dressed like this, I'm guessing it must be someone from that star team. The photos I helped shoot yesterday caused quite a buzz. They got dug up so fast? The woman smiled. No. Our company is in the jewelry business. I let out a sigh of relief. Just shooting Liang Mai yesterday was enough to wear me out. Constantly asking for water, nothing was ever right. Wanted me to shoot him like Panin, with average looks and delusions of grandeur. Incredibly hard to deal with. Of course, sometimes we do need to shoot for endorsers. She added. I nodded. Sure. The woman smiled. Then let's go ahead and sign the contract. I was stunned already at that stage. Don't you need to check more first? The woman just smiled. Mr. Zhao, as I mentioned, I've seen your work. Your ability is beyond doubt. Our boss really likes your shooting style. So, your requirements will all be met. I looked through the contract. No issues. Even said if someone acts unreasonably, I'm allowed to curse them out. Very humane policy. I guessed it was probably a small company. Not widely known yet. But the fee was a little too generous. I read the contract a few more times silently, only signed after making sure it was all good. Pleasure working with you. She took the contract back. May I ask? What's your boss's name? The woman paused for a moment. Our boss's surname is Lu. Lu Yue. My voice rose in pitch. The woman smiled and shook her head. No, Mr. Zhao. Don't worry. Our company is a subsidiary of the boss's company. It was just established, so it's not very well known. Our boss is a very famous entrepreneur. You really don't need to worry. It's also clearly stated in the other contracts, besides being punctual during the filming period. There aren't many other big requirements. I breathed a sigh of relief. She looked it up when she came. This company seems to be just starting out. It's not very well known. We came out of the cafe. Chengyi waved at me from afar. Have you been waiting long? Just arrived. I glanced behind him. Where's Nuo? Linger, Cheng the greeted little Jubao. Is Nuo at school? I'll bring him out next weekend. Linger squinted from the sun's glare, but still asked him softly. Is Kazan still on set? Yes, we can go directly to the set. Then we can leave once he finishes. Cheng the opened the back seat and placed Linger in the child's seat in the back. What about my car? I'll ride it over. Chengyi looked at my cartoon belly button. His mouth twitched slightly. Is this yours? I nodded. I'll have the driver bring it back for you. All right. Cheng the started the car. I thought film crews were usually busy. They usually are. I fan myself with my hand. The male actor keeps making trouble. The director doesn't interfere anymore. He can't do much. The background is too influential. Not sure, but I heard he has strong backing. I leaned on the seat back. Hey, do you know Liang Mai? Chengyi frowned. Liang Muye. I suddenly patted my head. I remembered. He's backed by the Jiang family. Pretty high profile. Everyone in the circle knows about his ties to the Jiang family. He should be in some kind of ambiguous relationship with the second daughter of the Jiang group. I thought for a moment. The second daughter of the Jiang group, Jiang Yuxin. Cheng the glanced at me through the rearview mirror. You didn't know. I suddenly widened my eyes. Who? Jiang Yuxin. Yeah. Seeing my big reaction. What's wrong? Kezhen's wife is Jiang Yuxin. Now, it was Cheng Yi's turn to be shocked. I heard Jiang Yuxin got married. But I didn't know it was to Kezhen. I clenched my fists. That damn scumbag woman. No wonder Kezhen was so upset whenever this was brought up. I opened a water bottle and fed Linger a sip. No way. Even if it's a business marriage, Kezhen has to stay away from that woman. They're married and still entangled. Cheng agreed. As we were talking, we arrived at the set. Cheng Yi parked the car. How did the contract go today? Pretty smoothly. I just wanted to get some practice first. I said. Why does being a rich gentleman not suit you? Cheng turned his head from the steering wheel to look at me. I pinched Linger. Lying flat is something for my 30s. Right now, I need to work hard for early retirement. Cheng Yi was inspired by my ambition and burst out laughing. Even if you don't work hard, you could still lie flat. No way. I pouted. I don't need to ask. Everyone thinks I'm not good enough for Ji Wanyu. I'll prove them wrong with my actions. It's not about being good enough. It's about whether I'm willing or not. That social climbing behavior in our circle. I can't even be bothered to deal with it. Cheng Yi raised an eyebrow. You've got backbone. We waited in the car for a while. Then someone knocked on the window. Kezhen opened the front passenger door. I glanced at the time. Why are you back so soon? There was another issue with the actors, so I left early. Kezhen took the water bottle Cheng handed over. Don't tell me it's that male lead again. Kezhen gave me a look. Cheng asked, are you still meeting the investor? My eyes lit up. Yes. We can invest too. That's not up to me. Kezhen said helplessly. You can't use even a bit of your connections? Are we just going to let him run wild? Cheng Yi drove the car out. Since dinner is still a while away, we could go for a massage first. I noticed a look from Cheng. Liang Mai is backed by the Jiang family. Jiang Yuxin is in a formal marriage with Kezhen. At this point, it's hard to tear things apart openly. Who can really explain the affairs of the rich? Kezhen suddenly turned to me. Oh right, Cheng. Liang Mai's assistant asked me if I wanted to be their designated photographer. I raised an eyebrow and said, no. Cheng Yi looked up at me. Was the trending street photo on Weibo yesterday taken by you? I nodded. It was already dusk when Cheng dropped me off. Linger was already yawning with her hand over her mouth. Sweetie, say bye to your godfather and uncle. Linger raised her little chubby hand and waved. After getting home and washing up, I put Linger to bed. Then I walked to the study and knocked on the door. It was quiet. I gently pushed the door open. Ji Wanyu opened a cabinet and placed something in it. The study was almost as big as the bedroom. There were all sorts of trinkets arranged on the shelves. At first glance, they looked like my favorite blind boxes, whether it's her office or study. My presence is everywhere. Is something wrong? I don't know why. But Ji Wanyu's tone was a bit distant. She seemed very cold and unapproachable. I handed her the item I was holding. This is for you. Ji Wanyu pursed her lips, staring at the dress in my hand, but didn't take it for a while, so I opened it and laid it on the table. Inside the pencil box was a delicate bracelet. It was beautiful. She had no reaction. I wasn't sure. Why are you giving me something? Her voice had no emotional fluctuations. Do you need a reason to give a gift? I felt a little confused. I liked it, so I gave it. Don't you have anything else you want to say? I got angry too. If you like it, keep it. If not, throw it away for all I care. After saying that, I turned and left. The study door slammed shut with a loud bang. Ji Wanyu stared at the bracelet on the table. She tugged at the corner of her lips bitterly. Until the morning when we took Linger to get vaccinated, I hadn't looked directly at Ji Wanyu once. It was my first time. No, it was the first time in my memory that I gave a gift to the opposite sex. She reacted coldly, fine, but she even looked like she was questioning me. We were silent the whole way. We arrived at the hospital. Ji Wanyu carried Linger into the examination room. Dr. Ji did a few simple checkups on Linger. He pinched her chubby little cheek. Linger has gained weight. She clung tightly to Ji Wanyu's clothes, looking a little nervous. Don't be scared. It'll be over quickly. The doctor prepared the medicine. Linger suddenly reached her arms out to me. I took her in my arms, gently comforting her. Don't be afraid. Linger, you're my brave little sweetheart. The doctor rolled up her sleeve, wiped with an alcohol swab. and gave her the injection. Linger flinched slightly, then buried herself in my arms. It's done. I picked Linger up. You did great. By the way, Mr. Jiu, Mr. Zhao. Linger's condition is much better than before. Suddenly, this issue between teacher and student isn't much to worry about. Maybe she recover completely someday. I asked, does she need medication? No need. The main reason. The doctor hesitated for a second. It's psychological. But the situation is already much better than before. After leaving the hospital, Linger came out of my arms with teary eyes. I pulled a lollipop from my pocket, unwrapped it, and handed it to her. Linger, you were amazing. Tonight I'll take you out for something tasty, okay? Linger nodded. Then we dropped Linger off at kindergarten. As the teacher took her in, she kept looking back, with those longing little eyes.